is a must win. You need to win. Whatever label you want to put on it, it's what's going to happen there at Lucas Oil between the Colts and the Steelers. We'll talk about that, a little bit of Pacers, a big weekend of college basketball, and everything in between. Kevin, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well. They don't make it much bigger than this one, Andy Sweeney, coming up tomorrow. Really afternoon. I mean, it is absolutely loaded from Bloomington at 12:30, welcoming the number 2 team in the land in Kansas. I say this in all seriousness. How about 145 at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Indiana State and Ball State?
It's a good game. Let's go.
2 really, really good mid-majors here. 9-1 Sycamores, 8-2 Fighting Colleen Bowen Cardinals. So that will be the first matchup of the Indy Classic, and then of course at 4:30. I am still bummed that Purdue and Arizona are going to be the same time as Colts and Steelers, but we'll dual screen it as best we can. So a loaded show running down all of it, and then if you want a little nightcap, it'll be in Minneapolis, but it will be the Pacers at the Western Conference leading Timberwolves, and the TV voice of the T-Wolves, Michael Grady, going to join us coming up in the 9 o'clock hour today. So it is, you just don't get a slate like this. Hell, you don't get, the top 3 teams in college basketball in one state very often. So I cannot wait for that. And I'm also checking the press releases to see if Brandon Staley will make it to 8 a.m. Eastern time zone.
Oh, goodness. I mean, at this point, they might as well just do the funny thing and ride it out the rest of the season. I mean, what are they doing? They could have fired the guy weeks ago. Your boy Aiden O'Connell with a big game last night. 63 points put up by the Vegas Raiders.
I did not watch Un play.
Okay, so it's so interesting that you
not
say that.
One.
If you take you, me, and then Mark didn't. I mean, we've been talking about. I think did we text last night? I can't remember. Mark was like, "I'm done with this game," or maybe it was you on Twitter. You said, "Go hang out with the wife." That's what you
get
said.
Some brownie points.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's funny that you guys say that. Again, I had little interest in Easton Stick versus Aiden O'Connell, to be clear. But it's kind of become an annual tradition of the Bowen household. We watched last night, the Final Four of the NCAA Volleyball Championship.
Oh, okay.
You want to talk about entertainment. You want to talk about fast pace. How about Texas? By the way, local connection. Roncalli girl Emma was her first name, number 2. Very good for Texas.
I feel like there's 3 Emmas on every volleyball team. You really narrowed it down there, KB.
How about Jermaine O'Neal's daughter?
I saw that, yeah.
The best player for Texas.
I'm sure. Is she like 6'7"?
She's
got to be so damn tall.
I think I looked it up. She was 6'2", I believe. But she was obviously very, very good. So that was our viewing last night.
Well, how about that?
My wife played high school volleyball, so she loves watching it.
Who won? I don't even know. Who won?
Nebraska swept Pittsburgh in the first semifinal, and then Texas beat Wisconsin 3-1 in the second. So I feel like Nebraska-Texas has probably been played out like 37 times in the volleyball national title. So that was us at the Bowen household.
Okay.
Not one play of the Raiders scoring 63 points 5 days after they had just scored 0.
That's a good average, I guess.
2 more things from the game last night. They scored 42 in the first half, and they didn't even start the game with the ball.
Oh, that's great. That's
the Chargers got the opening kickoff. And then how about that? They get to 63 with like 14 minutes to go in the game. They could have got to 80.
Oh, man.
Where was the running clock?
We've had a 63 this season and a 70, right? With what happened between the Dolphins and the Broncos. And then last night, poor Mr. Stick. And then, Aiden O'Connell had 4 touchdowns, so good for him.
They're doing trick plays up by like 45 points.
How about the Brandon Staley interview at halftime?
I didn't even say it. What did he say?
God.
Did he look terrible? He had to look terrible.
No,
it was 42-0 at halftime.
We're going to be playing for pride in the second half.
Oh, he'll be playing for something.
That's not us.
Man, he's a bad head coach. Someone's going to take over. That's the kind of team. The Chargers are the type of team we haven't respected for a number of years. And listen, the Colts could be this year. Half the league flips over every single season. Isn't that the stat? Like 5 teams at least flip over that don't make the postseason, and then they make it the next year, or vice versa. And the Colts obviously had as JMV would say, a clown show type year last year, and they very well could make the playoffs. We'll obviously dive into that for the next 3 hours. The Chargers are just one of those teams that will get a grown-up in the room, competent coaching. Justin Herbert will get cooking, and they'll somehow be a playoff team. Speaking of playoffs, I mean, you're going to be there on Saturday, Media Row. It doesn't get much bigger than this one. If you lose the game, you're looking at it's not just a loss on Sunday. It's losing, much like the Bengals the week before, it's losing to a team that you're going to be in competition with for these final playoff spots. And Cincinnati was one thing. They still have some room to catch up. But Pittsburgh right now and for several weeks now, guys, and you know this, has been a playoff team. TJ Watt is back. I know you wrote about that on 107.5thefan.com.
Gosh, I think that's huge.
No, I think we need to. I think we need to dive into that pretty much immediately. Watt is back. Braden Smith, we know Jonathan Taylor going to be out for this game, but I tell you, I mean, it's like you know, if you're a player, you're practicing. Everything is leading up to this type of game that you want to be on standalone national television. They have a backup quarterback and an offense that averages about 14 points per game the last month or so, and you're coming off, if you're the Colts, such a disastrous performance where everything went wrong in Cincinnati. If you don't do that and you win this game, you're going to have damn near a 70% chance to make the playoffs when we walk in here on Monday.
You know, I'm trying to find the right analogy, Andy, for what tomorrow is. You know, yes, it is the closest thing to a Week 15 must-win that you're going to get. It has one of the feels for me of, like, if you win, and I'm going back to, like, my old, like, baseball days, if you win, you're still kind of in the winner's bracket. If you lose, you're now in the loser's bracket, and that means you've got to make up games.
Right.
And again, I know it's not the perfect analogy, but I'm trying to try to make some sort of, I guess, grasping at straws here on this Friday morning. But if you just want to boil it down to the numbers, as you said, with a win, pending other results here coming up in Week 15, and we'll run down some of the games the Colts need to go their way this weekend, it would be at just north of 60%. In terms of making the playoffs. With a loss, you would drop all the way down to 20. Honestly, Andy, if some results don't go your way, you could even be playing for your playoff lives next Sunday.
Sure.
With a loss,
it's a possibility
on Saturday. So we will see, obviously, how everything shakes out. There are 2 games sandwiched around the Colts tomorrow that have major implications for them, with 3 games on the Saturday slate. And then the TJ Watt situation. You know, part of it's PTSD. Andy, part of it's PTSD this season. The Colts have played, I would label, 3 elite edge rushers this year. 3 of them. Josh Allen twice with Jacksonville. Trey Hendrickson last week with Cincinnati. And then go back to Myles Garrett back in mid-October. All 3 of those players across those 4 games, they wrecked the games.
Mm-hmm. They had their way. Myles Garrett won the game.
They game wrecked you to various levels. Obviously, Myles Garrett at the top of that list. And now it's TJ Watt, who, again, he lines up opposite the right tackle. Don't think very much Bernard Ryman, although Bernard Ryman's got Alex Highsmith over there, who also is a pretty nice edge rusher. You have got to give Watt attention, and then when you think you've given him enough attention, you give him even more.
Give him more attention, right.
And again,
which they haven't done. They kind of failed at this. Like, are they going to fail for a 4th time this season at this very thing?
I feel like they've played with fire with Allen a little bit, with Garrett a little bit, with Hendrickson a little bit. There's no time to play with fire when, for me, for Pittsburgh to be in this game, Watt's got to be crazy Watt. I mean, he's got to be one of the best players in the game of football. Again, the numbers when he is on the field versus off the field are beyond astonishing in his impact. You just don't see a defensive player matter that much to a team. So we'll definitely throw those at you. Good news for Juju Brents, good news for EJ Speed. Both of them will be in uniform coming up tomorrow. But as Andy said, no Jonathan Taylor, no Braden Smith. Yes, thank you, Nathan. Emma Halter.
There you go.
Yeah, she's good. A libero, which means they wear the different color jersey.
Nebraska, they're the one that had the outside game a couple months ago, right? Where they had like 105,000 people there or whatever. By the way, did you see the Ohio State quarterback was going to, who is it, McCord? Why am I blanking on his name?
Did I see like Syracuse now?
Yeah, he was going to go to Nebraska, and then they got the 5-star kid from Georgia and everything, and they're probably, paying a few million. So the salary cap doesn't, allow for them to have 2 quarterbacks making up over $1 or $2 million. So he's going to go from Nebraska to Syracuse, and he went I mean, he went 12-1 with Ohio State. How's he getting up at Syracuse? Anyway, we can dive into
Now, speaking of transfer portal quarterbacks, I saw Curt Cignetti.
He did.
He got one. Curtis Rourke, I hope I'm saying that.
Believe so. From Ohio.
Right, the former MAC Player of the Year. Yes, a Bobcat from Ohio, so I would assume he is the guy under center here for Curt Cignetti's first season. Put up some very nice numbers. Canadian in his background there, so he will be transferring to Bloomington portal-wise. Pacers back in action tonight. It's a back-to-back. Nation's capital tonight, and then, as we said, at the Timberwolves, the Western Conference leading T-Wolves tomorrow night. Andy Sweeney, the Wizards are 3-20. They are the worst defensive team in the NFL, in the NBA.
Well,
I should say. Probably the NFL too.
I'm checking in on Jordan Poole, our friend Jordan Poole, who we have not seen since opening night.
He's questionable. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing for the Pacers.
It's probably a bad thing for the Pacers. Oh no Jordan Poole. He's averaging 16 a game. Boy, those numbers aren't the same, are they? Ooh.
And then I saw Tyrese Halliburton did the of the wannabe all-star video tweet from yesterday. So I would assume you are going to get a rather highly motivated number 0 for the Pacers here. Coming up tonight, 8.5-point favorite. And I did laugh yesterday. Yesterday afternoon we talked about, man, they just got nobody that can somewhat defend Giannis, and then to a lesser degree, I don't know if anybody on this roster would react in the way Bobby Portis reacted Wednesday night. So what do the Pacers got to do?
To me, I wanted to lead with this story.
They go get James Johnson.
Oh, I just love it so much.
Who, by all accounts, like when they do those anonymous NBA polls, it's like, what guy in the league would you not want to fight?
Yeah, he's
James
right
Johnson's
up there.
Like always near the top of the list. I still have these vivid memories of him dunking on Matt Roth when I was a freshman at IU. He was on that Wake Forest team with Jeff Teague. So James Johnson takes up the Daniel Tice vacant roster spot here. 15th year in the league, and even not like in the enforcer category, Andy. By all accounts, he was beloved last year with the Pacers in just how he handles the leadership role competitively, all of those things.
Yeah,
so.
That's fine, but it's a day after Giannis gives a forearm shiver and people are in the face of your superstar, Tyrese Halliburton. Like, the timing is perfect. If they were going to do this anyway, or he was a guy on their radar, I get it. But it's a day after you're like, you know what? Just in case we get into another fight in the tunnel, just in case the Milwaukee Bucks want to fight us in the tunnel, we're going to make sure we have a guy on the front line who can take care of Halliburton and some of that, right? I mean, Chad Buchanan can't be, elbowed in the ribs here. We got to have somebody protect these guys. And James Johnson is the perfect guy to do that. By the way, the over-under tonight on Halliburton assists is 12.5. That seems like easy money. Does it not?
Yeah,
27.5. His points are 27.5. Now, that's a lot of points.
Yeah,
he's going to have to drop damn near a 30 spot, but I feel like 12.5 is easy. So there you go. I'm just looking at DraftKings this morning.
Pacers Wizards tonight. That is a 7 o'clock tip again from the nation's capital. It's kind of rare on a Friday for us to have known the final injury report for the Colts, but we do know that again a little over 24 hours ahead of just a beyond massive football game for the Colts and their playoff chances here in 2023. Greg Rakestraw, 8 o'clock. Voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor at 9. And one of Indy's own, the great Michael Grady, coming up at 9:45. I'm Kevin Bone. He's Andy Sweeney, Mark Dykton on the ones and twos. Wake up call. KB and Andy, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with Jake. Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, morning Checkdown. Remember, Greg Rakestraw going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. Always love talking with Rake. Matt Taylor at 9 o'clock. Michael Grady, back end of the show. We'll give our picks at about 8:30 or so, what we think is going to happen with the Colts, the Hoosiers, and, of course, Purdue in action against number 1 Arizona. Let's start on our Checkdown, though. The big one at Lucas Oil, it's the Colts and the Steelers. Looking at the line right now, about a 1.5 favorite are the Colts. You're over-under right now at 42.5. It's about as big of a must-win as you can get in Week 15. Here's Shane Steichen yesterday.
I think everyone kind of knows, but, we still got 4 games left, and to me, this is another game, but we know the importance of it, you know what I mean? And we got to go out and execute and play together, play for each other, and that's really the message, you know what I mean? We're at home, we got our home crowd, and our guys are excited, and we're ready for the opportunity.
Yeah, final injury report of the week announced yesterday. Again, no Jonathan Taylor, no Braden Smith. Good news, though, for EJ Speed and Juju Brents for the first time in nearly 2 months. I would expect him to have some role. I think he will play defensively.
I was going to ask how much you think he
dress.
plays.
Yeah, I think he'll be involved in that third kind of cornerback nickel grouping. Probably Darrell Baker Jr. gets some of his playing time decreased with that, but obviously huge storylines, and I would say not a great final injury report when you consider T.J. Watt did pass concussion protocol for the Steelers, and it's going to be a rookie opposite him and right tackle Braden Smith and Blake Freeland, with Braden Smith missing yet another game. So plenty to unpack with that one coming up here on the other side. All right, last night, Thursday Night Football, it is shocking to me Brandon Staley still has a job. And I mean that in all seriousness. I thought that was a game and a result, Andy Sweeney, where he gets fired within an hour or two after the game ends. 63-21, the Raiders beat the Chargers.
I like how you said that very slow, very deliberately, in case anyone was driving. I was just looking through.
They had 63 with 14 minutes to go in the game. It was 63-7.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm just looking through Twitter right now, and the Chargers popped up on my feed, and it's 49-0 with 10.5 minutes to go in the third quarter, and this is where they finally score. I think it was a deep pass. I believe
Joshua Palmer, right?
I believe it was Josh Palmer who had the catch, and the Chargers account just said they put the video up of the play, and they put, "We scored."
Chargers social media is very, very good. I will give them that. The Raiders did not start the game with the ball. Chargers got the opening kickoff, and yet they scored 42 in the first half. They got shut out the week prior.
It's unbelievable. Here's the first half for the Raiders. Touchdown, 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 punt, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. I mean, that's how many series they got. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to say the Colts in a game earlier this year had 9 the entire game. They had 7 possessions in the first half. That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Add the Chargers to the Panthers is looking for a new head coach here coming up this offseason. All right, tonight in the nation's capital will be the Pacers favored by 8.5. They've got the Wizards. The Wizards stink. They're 3-20 on the year. It's the second worst record of the NBA. The last 2 nights out for the Wizards, they've given up 146 and 142. They are the worst defensive team in the association here. After tonight, it'll be a trip back to the Central Time Zone to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. That is the Western Conference leading Minnesota Timberwolves there. They've got to be one of the surprises of the season.
Oh, they have to be. They won last night as well. I'm just looking at the Wizards. Can you just who do you think they've beat this season? Just take a wild guess. It's obviously bad teams. They haven't beat Boston or the Lakers.
The Pistons.
Okay, the Pistons are one of them. They beat the Pistons, the Hornets, and the Memphis Grizzlies, of course, without Ja Morant. Those are the 3 wins they have.
We laugh, we joke. We should mention the Pacers have lost to some teams near the bottom
Hornets
of the NBA. Granted, this team is at the bottom of the NBA. And back-to-back for the Pacers before Paul George in the building coming up Monday night as they're back at home for the first time in a while.
Couple college football nuggets. We mentioned it there in the first segment. Indiana landing former Ohio Bobcat quarterback Curtis Rourke, played 4 years there, like 7,000 yards passing. So he's got a lot of stats in the MAC. We'll see if that can translate to Kirk Cignetti and the Big Ten. And then Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe announcing yesterday he's coming back for a senior season. I would imagine that's newsworthy given they're in the playoff and next year they get their quarterback back.
One more local football note. Josh Ringer is your Mr. Football here for 2023. That is the running back at East Central. 55 touchdowns, over 2,800 rushing yards. He was the overwhelming winner. Tyler Cherry, quarterback who was committed to Duke from Center Grove. I think he's opened that up a little bit. Indiana, Michigan State. I saw a couple schools of interest. He was second, but again, overwhelming for Josh Ringer there as East Central had a very impressive year winning the 4A state title. And, of course, the college basketball slate, we let off the show with it. It is unbelievable, really, for tomorrow. It'll be Kansas at Indiana there. That is number 2 ranked Kansas. We'll see about Xavier Johnson for this one. It's a stripe out at Assembly Hall.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's nice.
Yes, I don't know if that'll lead to better three-point shooting or not, but that's the plan for Indiana. And then here locally over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, it will be not Butler. Butler plays tonight against Saginaw Valley State. It'll be Indiana State and Ball State at 1:45, followed by Purdue and Arizona. That is number 1 ranked Arizona. Again, a reminder for people that are not going to the game, that is on Peacock. So I think this is Purdue's first game on Peacock this season. We saw Indiana have the one earlier this year against Michigan. Arizona, Andy, extremely balanced, very challenged in the non-conference schedule. They already won at Duke this year, and they've got some big dudes. I mean, Tommy Lloyd has taken a little bit of the Gonzaga, we'll go outside the borders. I mean, we will internationally. They've got some big guys that have been pretty impressive early in the season. So I think a great test for Matt Painter's bunch coming up tomorrow.
Where was that game at again?
Which game?
Where can you watch it?
Oh, here we go. Peacock.
Go ahead and play it. I thought you meant Arizona at Duke. I'm like, do we have a Duke sounder here?
I want the listening audience to be aware.
Yeah, so get your text out right now to your buddy that you want to share passwords with Peacock.
Yep.
Don't wait till right before the game, okay? Get ahead of it today. Do it tonight. Do it tomorrow morning. Don't be sitting there when you're getting ready. You know, it's 4 o'clock and you're scrambling for a password, okay? Don't do all of that. Don't do the sign up that you're gonna forget about and get the $6.99 to your account in 30 days. You know what's going to happen. Go ahead and send those texts right now.
And again, 7-day free trial. Not sure that's the route you want because Indiana Purdue coming up in January.
Plus, you'll forget about it.
On Peacock.
There's no such thing as a 7-day free trial. You
swallow
must
your
give them your
pride
money.
and live with it here for the next couple of months. All right, on the other side, the presence of TJ Watt. What does it mean for tomorrow? I'll throw a couple eye-popping stats your way in his presence on the field against rookie Blake Freeland and the Colts. We'll do that next here. It's a wake-up call. KB and Andy.
Soccer Saturday.
think his name is Steve.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It's a feel-good Friday today, getting you into the weekend, and a big weekend it is going to be. All the college basketball, Pacers in action, and of course, the Colts and Steelers coming up at Lucas Oil, 4:30. We'll have the pregame, the postgame, the game, everything right here on The Fan. All right, so we teased this a couple different times. Let's get to it right now. Let's reward the audience, Kevin Bowen. You have some stats up as well, 1075thefan.com. But the big storyline coming from this one, or going into this one, I should say, is TJ Watt. There was a thought he was injured last week, had a long week. They played, if you remember, the Steelers did on Thursday night. He got injured early in that game, came back with a visor. There's been a lot of back and forth. Did he play? Did he have a concussion? Why wasn't this caught? Was it caught? Did they ignore it? So the PA and the NFL may be looking into that. Either way, he passes concussion protocol. He is ready to go. And when he plays, they have a chance of winning. And when he doesn't, they don't. He will be in there on Saturday. So that's obviously pregame-wise one of the big storylines. What numbers can you throw our way to titillate us this morning, Kevin Bowen?
I think sometimes you often see, when this guy starts at quarterback, team success is here. When this guy doesn't start at quarterback, team success, drops to here. So with a quarterback, or even maybe an offensive player like a elite wideout, some of those numbers can be, rather notable, but I guess to a degree a little bit expected. I was shocked to see Pittsburgh's with and without TJ Watt. Andy, if you look at the last 4 years, with TJ Watt in the lineup, Pittsburgh has won 68% of their games. Obviously a really nice mark. They've allowed 19 points per game. So certainly anytime you're under 20 in today's NFL, it's pretty darn good. So again, with Watt, 68% of wins, 19 points per game. He has not played in 10 games in the last 4 years. They are 1-9 in those 10 games, and they allow 26 points per game. So one defensive player.
It's an unbelievable
is the difference in your season being, 12-6 or 11-6, I guess, with the new 17-game schedule, something around there, from a, winning 2 out of every 3 versus going 3-14 or something like that. And again, when you're talking about the Colts right now, and you're talking about 7 points in a football game, I mean, how big is that? Just look at the margin for error in New England, or I should say in Germany against New England, or, in Nashville a couple weeks ago, what 7 points would mean. Same thing goes for Pittsburgh. If you think about their offense right now.
Oh, sure, they can't score at all. 14 points per game the last month.
They haven't scored over 20
right
in the last month. So what does 7 points mean to them? And I think when you start to look at this one, it's not just TJ Watt's presence. It's that you're going from Braden Smith, who, yes, I know a lot of people just write him off because he hasn't been very healthy this season. When he's out there, though, he is very effective and one of the better right tackles in football. And now you're going to a 4th-round rookie, who I think Blake Freeland has been fine, but still, he's not Braden Smith. And when I think back to matchups this season with Josh Allen of Jacksonville and Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals and, obviously Myles Garrett, go back to that Browns game, those guys made their presence felt. So I think if you are a Colts fan, you are on your knees pleading Shane Steichen, anybody but Watt. Do not let Watt, and they've got some other dudes on that defense, but still, he is the game wrecker. He's the guy that can change the game. Does that mean a tight end's got to stay in and chip a lot? Does that mean a running back's got to go over there and chip a lot? So be it. So be it. Because to me, the numbers are beyond impressive that he can just single-handedly wreck a game. So for me, that matchup is easily the biggest one to watch, and it's probably a reason why I am so uneasy about this one for the Colts, given Mitch Trubisky stinks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me. TJ Watt being in this game has made me think about it a lot more. I mean, just because they're
you
the
were
Steelers.
heavy Colts, I feel like, early in the week when it looked like Watt was still iffy.
Yeah, because, I'm looking at, okay, he's got a concussion, and how many times have we around here? It doesn't matter the position, KB. Has anyone in the Colts come back the next week?
They had Mo Alley Cox.
Okay, was Mo Alley Cox the
make it
only
back.
one?
Now,
But
Pittsburgh did have an extra day with playing on Thursday night.
They did, and I understand that. I'm not saying something, nefarious is going on here. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is when a guy gets a concussion, it is, like, I don't even feel like it's 50-50 that he's going to play the next week. And so TJ Watt has, if you look at it, 14 sacks. To me, it's him getting the sacks, but what worries me most about TJ Watt and just everything involved with him and the Steelers knowing they're going to have to get a pass rush is punting the ball here is not going to be the worst thing for Gardner Minshew.
No.
Fumbling the ball is, right? And
right.
that's what worries me. And then on top of it, I will say, when Myles Garrett was dominating that first game, go back a month and a half ago now, when Myles Garrett was dominating that game earlier this season, Shane Steichen backed up in his own end zone, decided we're gonna do a long drop here with Minshew.
Yeah, double move.
Yeah, we're gonna do a double.
Michael Pittman.
Yeah, we're gonna do a double move on the outside. That's something that cannot happen in this game, right?
It's funny you bring that up because I remember you and I discussing that on the Monday after of saying, there's an element of aggression and belief in your players that's fine and well, but there's it borderlines on stupidity at times. And I think it was that Monday night, if I'm not mistaken, Andy, that was a Manning cast where Aaron Rodgers went on with Peyton and Eli. And I think it was the 49ers as one of the teams playing on Monday night.
I'll look it up. That's a great memory if you're right, by the way. I'm going to be very impressed if this is right.
And Rodgers brought up to the Mannings, like, hey, when we were facing San Francisco in years past, we would have plays specifically on the call sheet of if 97 is off the field, and that would be Nick Bosa for San Francisco. And it's one of those things where you want to take deep shots over the course of a game, but you're not going to be stupid to realize if Bosa is on the field, or if he's single team, certainly, that we can just all of a sudden block him up and boom, I can sit in the pocket and try to find Randall Cobb down the middle or Jordy Nelson, whoever. I'm probably going way too far back in Packers days, but that to me was what was so confusing about that game against the Browns. Myles Garrett is not on the field for every single snap. TJ Watt plays a whole lot, but he's going to be off the field in all likelihood for probably, let's say 10 snaps over the course of a game. If you think and you want to take those shots to Alec Pierce, that would be the time to do it. That, to me, was where it was one of the very few moments all year I've thought to myself, that was just stupidity from Shane Steichen. Backed up in your own end zone, rookie right tackle, and you think double move with your backup quarterback at that point. You're asking to play with fire and get burnt, and you were in that moment. So I think that is also something to tomorrow. I have been very vocal in saying, 2 to 3 deep shots to Alec Pierce a game needs to be commonplace. But to me, they've got to be pretty darn strategic tomorrow of when you do them. And certainly staying away from the obvious passing situations goes without saying. And, of course, they struggle with that with Zach Moss, so many negative runs last week. So, to me, the TJ Watt presence against a rookie right tackle, it has totally shifted my thinking of how I view this game and thinking I think Pittsburgh's got a legit chance despite borderline ineptness at quarterback in Mitch Trubisky.
Well, that's the thing. We know they can run the football, but this has been, we're talking, we are respecting, here's what we're doing. You especially, but I totally get it. You're spot on. The numbers bear out you being nervous about this particular matchup. But their offense has been as stinky as an offense can get. Has it not? Their quarterback play has been as rotten as you can get in the NFL.
Very stinky, very rotten. And I guess to continue the analogy, it's probably a horrible continuation of it. Don't they have some deodorant?
Yeah.
Like lingering?
They have some good.
Don't they have some guys? I guess is what I'm getting at.
No, you would want George Pickens on your team.
Carolina and New England didn't have guys.
Agreed.
In Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. Those are all guys that have made some plays in the NFL.
You would take all of them on your
some
offense
more
right
than
now.
Others. And I get it. They've been dysfunctional, and they could be down their best offensive linemen coming up on Saturday. And sure, the evidence is there. They haven't scored over 20 in the last 4 weeks. But I just want to remind people that, yes, their quarterback play looked horrific last Thursday night against New England. but it's not like the cupboard is totally bare for old Mitch.
That's why I think they're going to rely on the running game a little bit. Lean on Harris, lean on Warren for that change of pace,
Right.
and see how the running game goes. If they start gashing the Colts, they might lean more on that, take more off of Trubisky's plate, and just go with the run game.
Yeah, the worry on both sides of the ball would be the Pittsburgh A is able to run the ball, and then they get short fields because T.J. Watt and or that defense does something to create short fields the way that Myles Garrett created short fields where they had to go out there as P.J. Walker or Deshaun Watson, and he got injured in that game very early, but where they got out and they could run 3 bad plays, kick a field goal, and get some free points. I looked it up, by the way. It was week 7 of the NFL. That's when the Colts lost to the Browns 39-38. Do you remember the Monday night matchup? It was the 49ers. Do you remember the other team?
For some reason, I'm picturing indoors and Vikings.
Oh, you're on today. Boy, who's doing better than Kevin Bowen today? 22-17, Vikings beat the 49ers. That's before Kirk Cousins obviously shredded up his Achilles and everything else.
It's because he's drinking scotch in that thermos today. It's not his usual water.
Shredded up the Achilles. What an awful image on this Friday morning.
Did you happen to
shred your Achilles?
Well, that's what he did. Did you happen to see what Kirk Cousins is doing for the holidays? Who he's a spokesman for? He's got the big gold chain. Did you ever watch the Netflix thing?
Well, didn't he rock that on the plane?
Yeah, he's been
Is he Flavor
rocking
Flav?
Yeah, he's been rocking the chains. He's got a Kohl's cash.
Flavor Flav singing the national anthem this weekend. I'd love to view that. What's he?
Which
Kohl's?
one? The Kohl's cash. The
store that my mom goes to.
Yeah, the department store that everyone's mom goes to.
Yeah, that fits Kirk Cousins.
He's got the Kohl's cash
With the gold chain?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny.
That's an interesting
now
mashup.
One thing Pittsburgh related. I went on Steelers radio yesterday.
Oh, did you?
And this is their mindset in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
We hate the team right now. People are ready to be done with Tomlin, and this is such a Tomlin game to where it's in the national loan window. The Steelers win it, and all the national media says this is why Tomlin's a Hall of Famer, et cetera, et cetera.
You local idiots want to get rid of Mike Tomlin.
You guys are ungrateful for Mike Tomlin, et cetera.
Well, they are a little bit.
Et cetera. So that is how Pittsburgh is viewing this. We've just lost to back-to-back double-digit loss teams at home in Arizona and New England. There is no evidence to necessarily believe in Pittsburgh, but yet, lo and behold, at 7-6, Mike Tomlin says, "You think I'm finishing under 500 in a season?"
Well, with all the
we don't do that.
You saying this combined with the T.J. Watt, I feel like I'm trying to be convinced to now pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. That's not something I want to do either.
That logic that was shared with me when I heard that gave me no reassurance of oh yeah, Pittsburgh's going to win this game. The T.J. Watt stuff actually,
sure.
I'm you know what? There's actually some evidence there with that. And I am curious, and I'm curious every time Pittsburgh comes to Indianapolis, just how much black and yellow is in there.
Yeah, I know Steichen was asked that a couple different times. I don't think he liked it. He's like, our fans will show up and everything. I mean, there's going to be Steeler fans. It's fine. I mean, everyone knows.
You can look at the secondary market, and honestly, you could sell this ticket and potentially, get a decent chunk of your season ticket package back. By the way, have you seen the secondary market for Purdue, Arizona?
We talked about that. What day? Tuesday?
Dear Lord.
It's like $2,000. If you want to sit really close, it might cost you $2,200 to go to that game.
Unbelievable.
That's great.
Unbelievable, the ticket prices for number 1 against number 3 coming up tomorrow. I'm curious about that line. Do you think that'll be pick'em? Purdue and Zona?
Yeah, and I just hate how we can't get a line today. I mean, the teams don't play today, and there's no injury. We're not waiting to see if Zach Edey's going to be available or not. We know he's healthy. We know he's good to go. So I always hate how college basketball lines, we usually can't even get to the morning, and then we can't get player props until we get closer to game time. I would say... What, Purdue favored by 2.5?
I was going to go minus
fair?
1.5.
Okay.
Give me a guess in Bloomington.
I'm going to say Kansas by 9.5. Is that too much?
I think that's too
maybe?
much. I think
maybe 7.5, 6.5.
The first number that popped in my head was 6.5.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can already tell you, I think IU loses by 16 tomorrow. I already feel good about where I'm going with that.
God, that non-conference resume.
It's just not going to be good.
Stinkier than the Steelers.
It is stinkier. Can I give you just, again, Rakestraw going to join us coming up at 8. Matt Taylor at 9. Michael Grady coming your way at about 9:40. We'll get to our picks at 8:30 or so. Can I throw just one other thing out there as we talk about this game on Saturday with Pittsburgh? Just looking around, KB, at what else this is where the Colts are. If they win, there's going to be the jubilation, but you still, on Saturday and Sunday, are going to be paying attention to what happens around the league, okay?
Right.
And if you lose, now you're in a situation to where you're really going to be rooting against some certain teams. So what are the other teams around them doing? We know the Steelers and Colts next to each other in the playoffs. So we know 2-7-6, and again, everyone's 7-6 at this point, it seems like. 2-7-6 teams. The Texans, who are below the Colts, okay, who are the 8th seed right now, they go at Tennessee. So they're going to be playing the Titans on the road, and C.J. Stroud is not going to play in that game. He is going through concussion protocol, and it sure doesn't look like he is going to be cleared by Sunday afternoon. I mean, everything I have seen is pointing to him not playing. They have massive now wide receiver issues. I kind of think the Texans are done. I think they'll be done after this week, perhaps. So they go to Tennessee.
Done?
I mean, if CJ, yeah.
I mean, it's a concussion. I mean,
Yeah.
if he's back next week,
if you ask me,
isn't he the best quarterback of all these teams kind of in the mix right now?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Those wide receivers are beat up, and they go Titans, Browns, Titans again, and then here in Indy. I think the Texans.
Joe Flacco, Will Levis. I mean, it's not like they're playing.
Oh, Joe Flacco. You kidding? It's an elite quarterback
I'll
in
take
the
that
NFL.
bet. You want to go against the Texans? I'll take the Texans.
Now, the bigger storyline of that
in
game.
which way? So you want to bet that the Texans make the playoffs?
Sure.
I will take done. Six
Boom,
pack.
there we
Six-pack
go.
of beer.
I will.
All right.
I will absolutely do that. Got
Shake
no
hands,
problem
you
with-
two.
Shake a hand.
We got-
Here we
now-
go.
now we got new
Here we go.
studio.
Here we go. There, we're shaking a
Look at
hand.
that. I hope the YouTube
I'll
cameras
freaking-
caught that.
Yeah, I hope they did. So
Now, the bigger deal in that game, it's not C.J. Stroud not playing. It's the Titans wearing Houston Oilers throwbacks.
Ooh.
Of all the games on the schedule,
It's pretty
they
good.
picked the Houston Texans as the opponent
Well.
to wear the Oilers throwback.
Well, yeah, there's a little trolling
Come
going
on
on
now.
there. I
Come
like that.
on now.
The Broncos 7-6. They go at the Lions. The Bengals 7-6, home against the Vikings. Bills 7-6, home against the Cowboys. So if you're looking at it this week, if the Colts could win, and let's say the Texans don't have Stroud, the Broncos going at the Lions. The Lions got to be pissed off a little bit. They've been shaky the last 2-3 weeks. I think the Bengals have a nice matchup. We're talking Nick Mullins is going to be starting that game, I believe, there in Minnesota. And then the Bills, the Cowboys, no one's playing as good as the Cowboys. We've had that conversation
What about the
around
Cowboys
here.
outdoors?
Listen, it's valid. I think the Bills could absolutely win that game. My point being, besides Cincinnati, there's some good matchups for the Colts. If, either way, if they lose, obviously, you want all these other teams that I've listed to lose. And if they win, there is a chance Texans, Broncos, and Bills could all lose with 3 games left in the season. It's all a possibility.
So, again, rundown on that. The Saturday game sandwiched around Colts-Steelers. You're going to want Vikings over Bengals at 1 o'clock. That is in Cincy. The nightcap, you're going to want Detroit at home over Denver. So those are the 2 Saturday games around your own. Then on Sunday, you want Mark's Bears over the Browns. That is
Done deal.
in
Done
Cleveland.
deal.
You want, I guess, Andy's Titans. Am I saying that correctly? Or maybe just not the Texans. You want the Titans at home over the Texans with Davis Mills starting for Houston in all likelihood. And then Dallas on the road at Buffalo. And that's Sunday Night Football, Ravens-Jags, right?
Yes.
So that would be the other one. I know Jacksonville's not necessarily in the wild card
That's worth
picture,
watching.
but if they continue down this path, granted, Jacksonville's schedule looks much more manageable after Sunday night, but that will be Baltimore at Jacksonville for that.
I hate how I've been the Texans guy all year in the face of all the Indianapolis fans, and now Mark is going to swoop in at
Turning
the end.
your back.
And
How dare you?
And I've turned my back, and now he's going to carry the torch.
Well, now that there's beer on the
remainder of
line,
the
I have to
season.
jump on the Texans train, I feel like.
Well, now you do, yeah. Now we got a 6-pack on the line. So
Somebody give me
we'll
a
see.
Tank Bell jersey.
A Noah Brown jersey,
We need
a
a
Devin Singletary
Will
jersey.
Anderson jersey here for Mark Dighton. Again, for those that missed it, injury report-wise for the Colts, no Jonathan Taylor for a 3rd straight game. Braden Smith is also out. Good news on E.J. Speed and Juju Brents. For Pittsburgh, they'll have both their pass rushers. Both guys questionable entering the week. T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, both of those guys are going to play. They could have Isaac Seumalo, one of their better offensive linemen. He's iffy for this one. So outside of Kenny Pickett not playing, that's probably the biggest one with Pittsburgh. All right, on the other side, Greg Rakestraw joins us. It is a busy Saturday for Rake. A little high school action we'll chat about as well. We'll do that next. Michael Grady coming up in the 9 o'clock hour.
The Pacers are flying higher than Donner and Blitz. The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We were smiling there during the break. Jake Query giving his little looky there. What's coming up at noon on Query and Company? Kevin Bowen's the lead. Wow, look at that. Big-time radio guy today.
You know, ever since I've kind of done that every Friday at 2 with those guys, the happy hours moved up to about 1 on Fridays.
Oh, that's about right.
You know,
this is a 1 o'clock happy hour type Friday. All these Fridays are, right? Because people have time off that they need to use, and as we get closer to Christmas and all the holiday stuff and everything else, pretty soon here we're going to have the first bowl games. We need to look that up. When are the first bowl games?
we got to have one on Tuesday, right?
Don't we?
What's Tuesday?
Help me. What's Tuesday?
No, just for some reason, I feel like the first bowl game every year is
always
on a Tuesday.
Is on a Tuesday. Yeah.
Do we get the Bahamas Bowl?
I need to look it up now.
Something like that.
I need to get in some sort of pick'em league. Maybe we should start that.
Greg Rakestraw going to join us here in a few. Again, Matt Taylor coming up at 9. Michael Grady, who's been in obviously these studios quite often over the years. Timberwolves Pacers tomorrow night. That is the Western Conference leading T-Wolves there. So we'll talk with Michael Grady coming up here in a little bit. Bowl season. I mean, they got to be soon.
Okay, it's coming up tomorrow.
Oh, really?
I'm an idiot. Yeah, well, I thought it had to be soon. Yeah, we have the
what do we got?
We have the Myrtle Beach Bowl, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, the RL Carriers Bowl. It's a New Orleans Bowl. So, we got some lower matchups, but, it's okay. UCLA Boise State would be the big bowl game that we have coming up tomorrow. All right, enough with that. We have Greg Rakestraw joining us here like he does every Friday, 8 o'clock on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Rake, good morning. How are you today, sir? How's it going?
I'm good. Happy holidays to both of you, and don't be so quick to blow off UCLA and Boise State. That is now a Big Ten bowl game, all right? So pay attention. We're going to cheer on our Western brothers in whatever bowl game they're playing in that nobody cares about.
Yep. And Rake, UCLA's got that Ball State transfer with the hair. For some reason, I can't think of his name.
That would be Carson Steele, and people on the southwest side of town are yelling at you for ignoring his Center Grove roots and his luxurious, naturally blonde hair.
That's on me. I did give a shout-out to Ron Colley in Center Grove earlier. Watched a couple of their volleyball products in the Final Four last night. You at least knew
that he was in the picture? Come on.
The hair is all that matters.
Yeah, the hair is all that matters.
Speaking of hair, if I can transition a little bit, Rake, the dude who won Mr. Football yesterday's got some hair. Was that a surprise how overwhelmingly Josh Ringer, the East Central running back, took home the honors?
No. I mean, he had 60 touchdowns, for goodness sakes. He finished 9th, I want to say, in state history in scoring. He finished 14th or 15th in terms of career rushing yards. They're the back-to-back 4A state champs, and they were so dominant this year. And in the one kind of opponent that would be like a 6A team in terms of Moeller, East Central beat them. And Josh had a huge game. The entire team had a huge game. But they won 38-28. And again, to put that in perspective for some sort of comparison's sake, Ben Davis beat Moeller by 20 the first game of the season. Center Grove beat Moeller in overtime.
Wow.
So it kind of gives you an idea as to just how good East Central was to get back into that debate. If they had to play a full 6A schedule, would the attrition kick in a little bit? Yeah, I think so. But in a one-off, they could have been competitive with anybody else in the state this year. He is a very deserving winner.
Greg Rakestraw joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Obviously, a lot of college basketball, one right down the road at Cambridge. It's going to be so big. You're going to be on the post game of the Colts and Steelers, a huge game in Lucas Oil. Let's start here, though. I'm not sure there's many people that can maybe talk about this better. I'll put you on the spot, but the passing away yesterday of George McGinnis, did your paths ever cross? I guess your reaction to him passing away. Young guy, just 73 years old. That news coming down about 24 hours ago.
Yeah, obviously a legend. And again, it was kind of unique in the times in terms of being able to go from, being a local basketball star and playing for the local preeminent college. That story's been written 9,000 times over. The unique nature of the 9-year window of the ABA, when to ensure you would get the best players, say, hey, who you want to go play for? And let's go play for the Indiana Pacers. Something like that wouldn't necessarily happen now. Our paths crossed infrequently. I moved to town in 94. George was doing some media work back then, but I really didn't kind of get into, sports talk, radio, television kind of full time until, say, 1998. So we only see each other infrequently. But what strikes me is how many of my friends that work in the business have shared a very similar story about George. They're like, hey, we acknowledge his greatness as a player, but it was his greatness as a person. I've got a good friend of mine that shares a story about his mother baking 2 peanut butter pies, for Big George, and it's just such a common thing. So I think about my friends that were close friends with George. The person that comes to mind immediately is Steve Downing, who is the director of athletics at Marian University. Obviously, was George's teammate at Indianapolis, Washington, at IU. I think about and George McGinnis in the last month or two, and I think that's rough. The other thing that strikes me as well is that when you look up at the Indiana Pacers banners that hang from the rafters, Reggie Miller is the last one that is with us. That the 3 retired numbers, which were the lone 3 retired numbers for seemingly the better part of 30 years, if not 25 years, Roger Brown, George McGinnis, Mel Daniels, the coaching number for Slick Leonard. You've obviously got Tamika's number retired in another team, another part of the arena. But of all those Pacer greats, it's Reggie that is the one that's left us, and that's been sticking in my head these last couple of days as well.
Greg, keeping it local here, we've had, and getting Greg Rakestraw is with us. We're setting you up for a busy sports weekend here in the state. You know, whether it's George McGinnis, you bring up Steve Downing. I kind of find it fitting that tomorrow we're going to get a great matchup over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Yes, Purdue and Arizona is obvious. Rake, Indiana State and Ball State. I mean, like, that is 2 teams that if you made a mid-major list right now of the best non-conference resumes, those 2 would be near the top of the list.
Yeah, it shows you kind of the difference in the ability for those schools to get games against larger schools compared to what it was, say, 20 years ago. Thinking about, all right, what's a similar game that we have had, and it was the 01-02 season. That was the year that Ball State went to Maui as cannon fodder and played in the championship game. I want to say they beat, is it UCLA and Kansas, and then they
little Patrick
UCLA and
Jackson,
Duke and lost to Kansas. Something along those lines, and then Butler played them in Muncie like in December, and both teams were ranked in the top 25. That's kind of almost what the feel of this is. And yes, I know it's an undercard, but I'm just so happy for both the success of ISU and Ball State, but for my friends at the Indiana Sports Corp, because it got obviously the thought was, hey, once IU and Notre Dame kind of bailed on the Crossroads Classic, what's going to happen to this event? And in year 2, you've got to sell out, and that part to me is really cool.
9-1 Indiana State, 8-2 Ball State, and Rake, by all accounts, Indiana State offensively is pretty darn gifted.
Yeah, Robbie Avila can really play. Played at USI. Ryan Conwell, who came back home from South Florida after 1 year away from Pike High School, former Indiana All-Star. Those guys fit well. And the ultimate compliment I can give the head coach and Josh Schertz is that when other coaches say, man, that guy runs good stuff, when they're trying to emulate what that guy does from a coaching perspective, and teams have done that, Josh has been a known commodity in coaching circles from his time at Lincoln Memorial in the Division II ranks. Indiana State, I think, can have a special year. Again, this isn't the old days. No matter what Indiana State does, the Valley's going to be a one-bid league. Somebody in that league would almost have to be like 29-2 or 30-1 and not win their conference tournament and still get a bid. It's kind of the way that the game is played these days. If Indiana State can win the Valley, and if they can get in the NCAA tournament, I think they can win a game or 2. I think that's how good they are, especially offensively.
Greg Rakestraw with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. It's a Friday here on the Fan. It's a great college basketball Saturday coming up. I'm just browsing the games here. And obviously, you guys mentioned the one you were talking about, Arizona, Purdue, the other one at Gainbridge, and then Kansas, Indiana. Let's look at those 2 games, the IU game, the Purdue game. Do you have strong thoughts on either one of these games, how you think they may play out?
I think you'll see IU play with a lot of pride. I question how good IU really is. I think they're a borderline tournament team, but I don't question the fact that they got run. They got embarrassed last week. And yes, it was finals week, so maybe your practice schedule is a little bit different when you're on the payroll. I'm not sure finals matter that much anymore, but they've been off since last Saturday, and they got embarrassed on national TV. And so the combination of that, being at home, having a marquee non-conference opponent coming into Bloomington, I think you'll see a much better effort from Indiana. So can they win this game? Absolutely they can. Will they? Let's figure it out. The one thing that they cannot do is give up anywhere near the points they gave up last week, because I do think Indiana is an offensively limited team in terms of what they can do. But I expect them to play a whole lot better. As far as Purdue is concerned, it's another great test for them. But again, I'll keep singing the same song about Purdue. There is such a been there, done that with this group until you get to March. And so to me, what Purdue is playing for is to stay in that top 1 or 2 seed line, which then gives them the first and second rounds in the exact same building they're going to be playing in tomorrow. So because Purdue has accomplished so much from November 1st through March 15th over the last couple of seasons, you almost got to tend to shrug your shoulders. It's great if they beat Arizona. I'm not going to freak out if they don't, because what I care about is what they do when the Big Ten tournament ends. That's what's important for this basketball team.
He is Greg Rakestraw. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Rake shifting gears to tomorrow and an absolutely massive one inside of Lucas Oil Stadium. To me, TJ Watt's presence and no Braden Smith is a huge, huge deal in a negative way for the Colts. Yep. How they handle him, the attention they give Watt is of, I think, utmost concern. Is that enough, you think, for Pittsburgh to overcome the lack of quarterback play?
Potentially. I mean, there might be a whole lot of Iowa fans may show up in droves tomorrow because there might be a whole lot of punts in that game. And that might not be a bad thing for the Colts. What they've got to do is win the turnover battle, and that has been said since the beginning of time. That to me is the most important stat, even the National Football League. But what this team does not have is margin for error. What they got away with to some degree against the Panthers, against the Patriots, to a lesser degree against the Buccaneers, and clearly did not get away with in the loss to the Bengals, is margin for error. So if Pittsburgh is going to struggle offensively, which I think they will, what you can't do is give them points on special teams and defense. What you can't do is give them short fields. So to address T.J. Watt, if that means that Mo Alley Cox is playing right tackle for most of the game tomorrow, that's fine. If it means you're going short passing game and Zach Moss is a blocking back, that's fine. I'd love to see the Colts score. Don't turn the ball over. Make this mediocre, and that's being nice, Pittsburgh offense, make them go the length of the field to beat you. If the Colts can do that, they've got a good chance of winning the game. If the defense from Pittsburgh creates havoc, creates turnovers, Colts might be cooked.
Greg Rakestraw with us here on this Friday. We've covered everything but Ballgate. We have not. Who has the ball? Who has Giannis's ball? We talked about it yesterday. Are we still doing this? For about 2 hours. Well, we don't know what Rake thinks about it. So, Greg, what did you make of the drama after the game? The running down the hallway of Giannis. The just everything that happened there after the game.
Down the hallway by Giannis.
What did you make of the drama in the NBA a couple nights ago?
Even though we don't use tape anymore. I felt in my head that I said, mark the tape, because yesterday when I was listening to you guys, I want to say sometime in the 9 o'clock hour, I go, oh my goodness, I agree with something Andy just said. It doesn't happen that often. So I wanted to make sure I marked the moment in time when that was the case. And that was the Pacers are on the Bucks' radar.
Yeah.
The Pacers are under the Bucks' skin. I literally texted a friend of mine in the Pacers organization and said that exact same thing. I'm like, that's actually a good thing. Now, listen, what the Bucks did was and Giannis was ridiculously stupid and dumb and childish. But we talked about during the run or the in-season tournament, hey, people care about the Pacers. People are talking about the Pacers. The Pacers have re-energized the fan base here in Indianapolis. Well, now they have gotten under the radar of a team that is shaping up to be a division rival. It makes that next batch of games against the Bucks a big stinking deal, which it's not that far down the road. This is the next evolution in that. So the act in of itself was dumb. The result or the precursor to get there is wonderful. A little bit of hate in sports isn't exactly a bad thing.
Nope.
We may have that now between the Bucks and the Pacers. I think that's a good thing for everybody involved.
Yeah, you earned some venom in what they've created there so far. Right, Christmas comes early to me on Tuesday. That is when you and I up US 31 to watch Micah Shrewsbury and the Irish. You are very gracious in that you have said that you want to drive. So I ask you this. What car snacks can I pick up for our commute there on Tuesday, okay?
I mean, isn't the ultimate car snack combos? Do you ever eat combos when you're not in the car?
No. That's a great point. Now, do you have a particular flavor? Are you a pizza guy? Do you go with the original? What do you like?
I treat this like Office Space. I celebrate the entire catalog when it comes to Michael Bolton. So typically it would be the pizza-flavored combos.
Oh, yeah.
I know Taco Meal. I know Taco Bell has got fourth meal, under wraps from like years ago. But to me, like fourth meal is combos and Mountain Dew as you're road tripping anywhere you may go. So bringing snacks is not necessary. Your friendship is good enough. But if you bring combos, I'm probably not going to turn them down. I'm not going to lie about it.
Just above the to-do list on Christmas presents for Rosie and Max, Greg Rakestraw, pizza, combos, Mountain Dew coming your way.
I kind of feel like the other ones I was going to say, Rake, when you were done, a mini list here. I kind of feel like Slim Jim and then something beef jerky is on that list as well if you don't go combos, and then something like a Mike and Ike, some sort of candy, chewable candy as well.
I'm a Gardetto guy as well.
That's fair.
So on Thursday, I agree with Andy. On Friday, that streak came to a crashing end.
One day's not bad.
With Slim Jims and Mike and Ike's. Gardetto's, always good. A little beef jerky, good. I try to have that as like a healthy snack inside of the house. When I'm road tripping, my health concerns seemingly no longer matter. Combos and Mountain Dew, full stop.
I cannot wait. Rake, give us the rundown tomorrow for you schedule-wise before we wrap it up.
All right, so tonight, North Central and Carmel, ISC, My Indy TV. Tomorrow noon, IUPUI and Lindenwood, that is second-year Division I program, St. Charles, Missouri, Ohio Valley Conference. That's noon at the Coliseum. Then as soon as that is over with, I will head south and join 80-something thousand sports-loving Indiana natives-ish as I head towards Lucas Oil Stadium for a 4:30 kickoff for Colts and Steelers with post-game coverage right here from 7:30 to 10:30.
Who was the Colts running back from Lindenwood?
D.D. Dorsey.
I knew Rick would be
Good
all
pull.
over that.
That's a good pull.
D.D. Dorsey. Gosh, great
It took
call.
the hard
Rick.
drive about 0.3 seconds to remember old number 25, who also then went to play for the Cincinnati Bengals.
No one like them. Combos and Mountain Dew on the agenda coming up Tuesday. Rake, cannot wait for that. Have a great weekend, and I will see you certainly next Tuesday.
See you, fellas.
Greg Rakestraw right there, Payless Liquors Hotline. I'm very, very excited to be in the car with Rake on Tuesday.
I should have asked Rakestraw, is he a fast driver? Like, you guys going to get there in record time? Does he take at the speed limit? I'm just wondering. These are the things that I wonder about.
I've mapped out the hours and, what time of arrival and departure and things like that, and he strikes me as a guy that'll test the limits.
Okay.
Well, let's be honest. With Rake's vast knowledge, the encyclopedia, the Mount Rushmore that he would be on here in the state of Indiana, if we get pulled over, there ain't no ticket coming.
Number one, I would agree with that. Number two, I was thinking you were going to say he knows every nook and cranny that a state cop can hide in when you're making your way up to South Bend. And plus, he's driving.
Just before Rock Hollow Golf Course, here we are, Peru, just before the water tower, Jeremiah Johnson statue. There's going to be a police car right there.
Is it bar, a little pregame, or are you guys just going to get there and go to the game? I guess that's a question I would have for you. I mean, we can wait. We can do this next week. We don't have to do this on a football Friday.
I'll dabble in whatever Rake, whatever path he wants to go. If he wants to go to the Grotto before the game, I'll happily do that. I believe he's got some connections from a staffing standpoint, not only Notre Dame, but the Citadel, who Notre Dame's playing. So Rake has acted like we might be a little behind the scenes. And you know me, I've got to behave. So
a couple people want you to stream your drive.
Hands
Get
will
like
be
a
in the pocket.
GoPro and go live.
I will go selfie in the car with Rake, for sure.
Okay.
100%.
There you go. All right, I like it. I can't wait. I'll take Citadel plus the points.
Oh, man.
There's my middle finger.
I'm not saying Notre Dame
at you.
loses. I'm saying they win by 3 or whatever the line ends up being.
With Notre Dame basketball this year, there's not many points to be had with that. Notre Dame Georgetown for those that want to celebrate tomorrow here with the Irish. All right, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, Michael Grady going to join us as well. Let's do our picks here in about 10 minutes since we got kind of a 9 o'clock, pretty loaded slate here coming up. So we'll give our picks coming up here. 1.5 point spread with the Colts and Steelers. With that, let's do a morning check.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, it is Colts and Steelers, 4:30 NFL Network, and of course, pregame, postgame, and the game. It's right here on the Fan. The Colts and Steelers, that middle game, Vikings-Bengals at 1, Broncos-Lions coming up Saturday night. The running game, that's what Pittsburgh needs to do, is rely on their two-headed running back monster. Here's Shane Steichen talking about that yesterday.
I think they do a good job up front. I've had some, crossover with their offensive line coach. I think he does a heck of a job with those guys. I think they've always had a history of running the football really well. The two backs are really good players. They see it. They got good balance. They see the holes. They see the creases. They hit them, and they do a good job up front. So we got to be ready to roll.
Again, that one 4:30. The two, Najee Harris is going to end up somehow with 1,000 yards this season.
And Jaylen Warren has been a nice change of pace.
And it feels like Jaylen Warren is almost the better player there. Maybe it's kind of he gets more run, but stopping the run, Grover Stewart's back. They're going to have to do a better job than they did last week against the Cincinnati Bengals.
As you said, 4:30 kick. That is NFL Network nationally, locally CBS 4. Going to pick that up. This from Brian. He'd say he'd pay $100 for a live stream of the Rake car ride.
Well, I mean, no offense, but you guys are going to be talking, Indiana State basketball and Notre Dame basketball and football.
We might be talking family.
Okay.
We might be talking religion. We might be talking politics.
Yeah, there you go. The big three. If you guys are going to talk politics,
Mark just gave me a dear Lord.
If you're talking politics to South Bend, then I'll chip in for the live stream. But I hear you guys talk about the Colts
politicians exiting South Bend in recent years here.
There has, yeah.
All right, moving on. It's somehow, some way. I guess we are on the fourth floor here at Radio 1. Pacers tonight, back in action. Dear Lord, Kevin. The Wizards stink. They can't guard Andy, Mark, or I. Jordan Poole's questionable. I'm not sure if that's a good thing for the Pacers or not. 8.5 point spread for Indiana in this one. And did you happen to peep what Tyrese Halliburton was liking on Twitter yesterday, Andy Sweeney?
I did. I've been following what Tyrese has been doing.
He liked the clip of the old wannabe All-Star. So with that news, that means we hammer Tyrese Halliburton overs for tonight?
Yeah, the overs, I think, what did I say? His points, 27.5. I don't know. I'm iffy on that. I mean, he can obviously hit that, but I just don't know if they're up enough, will you kind of press that? But I think, 12.5 tonight, the over-under on assists on Halliburton, I think I like that number a lot. I know that's a lot of assists, but I think he can, in this game, they can knock down some threes. He can get to that 13 number and win you some money. That would be the one I would go with.
Now, two things on the Pacers. Again, it sounds like they're going to sign, I guess, in quotes, enforcer James Johnson, veteran presence, highly competitive individual. He looks like a dude that you don't want to see in an alley. By all accounts, NBA players respect him in that manner. Also, January 3rd, Pacers-Bucks. I've got two requests for the Pacers, okay?
Okay.
One, Boomer, Kevin Pritchard, presenting Oscar Tshiebwe the basketball at the first timeout. And kind of wait till the end of the timeout when Giannis is back on the floor. Maybe go there for my first request. And then two, we've got to get the Bucks announcing crew on the Jumbotron pregame.
Specifically,
I'm with
Marcus Johnson, right? Play the clip for all I care.
Totally with
Put
you.
him on the Jumbotron. You've got to continue the pettiness, right?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, people, it's going to be a big thing. The boo cam. They have the kiss cam. This will be the boo cam. People will absolutely know, especially if they listen to this show, they listen to the Fan, they will absolutely know. Speaking of James Johnson.
Halliburton is one of the best floppers that I've seen in a long, long time.
That guy stinks.
Do we know which black belts does James Johnson have? Do you know off the top of your head what he has trained in?
Isn't one enough?
I was going to say, is there more than one?
Yeah,
Is it like
dear
a
Lord.
scouting merit badge?
The only black belt I have is occasionally when I dress
this
up.
one's the
try to
five-finger
be
death
a little
punch.
nice.
This one's for karate.
Well, no, it's different exercises, right? Different. Is that what they called exercises?
Look at me.
Different,
You think I know?
I don't know.
I have no
thought
idea.
You guys know everything about James
By
Johnson.
the way,
I figured
shout
you
out
would have known.
to the great Andrew Sullivan. Great time last night for the Bowens at the Sullivan Christmas train, and I was chatting with him about the Pacers and the Bucks. He goes, "Do you think we could have poked a different bear than Giannis?" You know, could
yeah,
you've done
like-
this to the Knicks?
like the Knicks.
Or maybe the Hawks?
Yeah, someone like
I don't know
that.
if Trae Young would have the same sort of physical effect on that. Again, Pacers back-to-back this weekend. It'll be in Minneapolis to take on the Western leading T-Wolves tomorrow night. So I think it's important to get this one. Take care of business tonight, and then play with a little bit of house money tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, looking at college basketball, Indiana and Kansas, that one coming up 12:30 CBS. You can hear it over IBC. Purdue and Arizona as well. Give me Matt Painter. Matt Painter talking about this Arizona team. How do you play them? How do you handle them? Here's what he said yesterday.
I think the key to me is just like keeping them off the free throw line more than anything, keeping them off the glass. Like they're so good on the glass. They're out rebounding their opponents by 19, but that's easier said than done. I think the team that can make better decisions and take better shots are definitely going to give themselves a better chance of setting their defense and not getting behind plays also.
All right, so there you go. ESPN's predictor gives Purdue a 57.2% chance to get the win. Indiana just a 33.2% chance to get the win over Kansas tomorrow.
So the rundown college basketball-wise, Butler, Saginaw Valley State, I believe they're D2 tonight inside of Hinkle. Then tomorrow, as you said, Andy, in Assembly Hall, that is a 12:30 tip for IU and Kansas. Did see Bill Self said yesterday, not sure if this series will continue. They did the home and home, which I love, but I know teams, typically like to kind of evolve and not just, have whatever one opponent here for those home and homes moving forward here. At 145, again, 9-1 Indiana State, offensively gifted beyond belief against 8-2 Ball State over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Great starts to those respective seasons for Josh Schertz and Michael Lewis. And then at 4:30, it is Purdue and Arizona. That is 1 versus 3. And Mark Dykton, go ahead and play the audio of where you can view that game. Sounds so
Is Jack
beautiful.
Collinsworth on that game? Do we know?
No, I hope not.
Okay, yeah, well.
That sounded so majestic.
Speaking of Jack, last night, Thursday, Brandon Staley still has a job as of
He
8:27
does.
this morning.
I just checked Twitter. He's still good to go. Still employed.
The Las Vegas Raiders scored 0 points Sunday in 60 minutes. Last night, after 30 minutes of football, they did not receive the opening kickoff, and yet they had 42 at halftime. 42 at halftime. 63-21, the final score last night. The Raiders stopped scoring with 14 minutes to go in the game. It was 63-7 at one point.
Wow. I mean,
Will the Chargers be the best opening when we get to Black Monday and we get to mid-January?
That's something that I had kind of thought of. I would say yes, because they have the quarterback. I mean, the Patriots and Robert Kraft, there's a bunch of winning, but you're following Belichick, and there is no quarterback there. That roster needs a lot of work. Washington, historically, is always a disaster. Sorry, Mark. I mean, maybe the Bears. I mean, just because you would get to pick your quarterback, you would have a lot of assets there as well. But no, I think you look down at. I mean, you're out in L.A. You would think you'd be able to attract some people. Plus, you have a couple good skill guys, and on top of it, you have your quarterback. That's where I would go. Yes, with the Chargers.
Lastly, an announcement from Fishers, Indiana. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Andy. They're getting one of those indoor football teams coming up here in 2025. The team name will be the Fishers Freight. That is in honor of a little nickel plate rail line action, certainly for anybody that's driven through downtown Fishers. You have seen that. So I believe that arena coincides with Indy Fuel playing there just south of IKEA. Again, 2025 for that. All right, on the other side, some Colts-Steelers picks. I think Andy Sweeney and I might be differing on that. We'll get Mark Dykton's opinion with the Colts and Steelers. Looks like a coin flip coming up tomorrow. We'll do that next.
Say hello to the power, performance, and precision. On 93.5 and it's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Appreciate Greg Rakestraw joining us. Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, coming up at 9 o'clock. Michael Grady, we'll talk with him back end of the show at about 9:40 or so. He's now in Minnesota. Where's his career taking him? New York and then Minnesota?
Correct.
Was there a stop in between?
No.
I can't remember. I hate to put you on the spot like you know everything that he's been doing the last
Right, I mean,
5 years.
certainly the Yes Network stuff. You know, we watched a lot of Brooklyn Nets action with them. Mark, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. He did a little college basketball, CBS Sports, along with the occasional sideline for the NFL. I believe he had the Colts in a game or two. So filled in on some of the, when you get into some of those non-bye weeks, you have bigger broadcast crews because there's more games, of course. So I think that's pretty much been the path for MG, and certainly going to continue down a budding star path.
Well, yeah, Minnesota's good. I mean, you're talking about a team that, they remind me of the Kings last year a little bit. Perhaps it might be what Indiana goes through the Pacers here in the next year or two.
Mike Conley is on the T-Wolves. So, their size obviously speaks for itself. Anthony Edwards, of course, a star. But, Mike Conley. So that'll be the second night of the back-to-back for Indiana. Minnesota does not play tonight, so they will not be on a back-to-back. So that's why, we were saying last segment, I think just really important to take care of business tonight. Handle one of the worst teams in the league. And Andy, if you have exited Vegas and split 2-2 this week, I think that's fine as you return home coming up next week.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the week. Is going 2-2, is going 500, is that low expectations? I think just beating the teams you need to beat, settling
realistic
in.
Expectations,
kind of resetting yourself after Vegas and kind of all the stuff, and then what happened in Milwaukee as well. So it's going to be a loaded 9 o'clock hour with Matt Taylor, Michael Grady. We'll have a pop quiz as well. Freebie Friday coming up there. So let's do some picks. Let's do some conversation around the Colts game, and then if we want to throw in Purdue, Arizona, Indiana, Kansas as well. I don't know if we just want to go around the room here. Let's be unorganized. How do you guys want to do this? What are you feeling as we go into this game on Saturday with the Colts-Steelers? I guess I'm still taking the Colts. I don't mind saying it. I'll go first. I'll take the Colts. Last week, this is 2 weeks in a row. Last week, I was very iffy, and I felt like I went Bengals all week, and then I changed at the very end. I went Colts, and I could have looked smart like you and some of the others, and I didn't, okay? I'm going to go with the Colts, and the reason why, it might not be a good reason, but there's a few. This is, I feel, a confirmation-type game for me, KB. And what I mean by that is they have built up goodwill this season that if you lose to the Bengals and Steelers, and especially if you lose like you did 34-14 to the Bengals and you come back and the Steelers kind of bully you around the field at home, obviously there's the entire Lucas Oil not winning a lot of games at home over the last couple years. That's something we can talk about, but it would really say, okay, you've lost to the Jags and Browns and Saints and Bengals and Steelers, and you beat teams that are just bad teams. Maybe not the Bucs, but just bad teams. And I don't want that to be the story or narrative of this team. So it's a confirmation game that last week, the BS that happened last week isn't going to happen again. And that's the other thing. I mean, last week was such a all systems failure for this team that I just can't believe that special teams is going to be running into McKenzie, and Matt Gay is going to have another terrible game there at Lucas Oil. I actually think they make a play in this game. Can they stop the run and make Trubisky have to do, or if they go to Mason Rudolph, have to do something? Listen, I know this is a Steeler game, but we've also said that the last couple weeks. But I understand that narrative. It's a Steeler game, nationally televised, and they win 16-13 and everything else. A little bit more scoring. I'll go 23-17 Colts, and we walk in here on Monday, more than a day removed, but we walk in here on Monday with whatever happens in those Texans, Broncos, Bengals, Bills games. We sit here and look and say, hey, there's 3 games left, and the Colts manned up, if you will, and got the win over the Steelers. They broke the curse of the Titans this year. Let's break the curse of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have won the last 8 in this meeting. 23-16.
Mark Dykton?
Well, history is not on the Colts' side. If you look at the history books, I wrote an article on the 107.5 The Fan. I gave 3 reasons why they'll win and 3 reasons why they'll lose. One of the reasons I said why they'll lose is because in the 33 times that they've played the Steelers have absolutely kicked the ass of the Colts. 27-6 all-time record. They've won the last 8 straight matchups. The last time the Colts beat the Steelers at all was with Peyton Manning under center in 2008. They haven't won against the Steelers in the existence of Lucas Oil Stadium. The last time they beat them at home was November 28th, 2005 in the RCA Dome. So history not on the side of the Colts. With that said, I'm throwing a dart against the wall. I'm going to take the Colts 20-19.
Ooh.
Interesting.
He did the Pat McAfee.
He did do a little McAfee.
He built up the Steelers.
I thought he was going to pull out a terrible towel there for a second, Mark Dykton. That was fancy there.
I feel like I faded the Colts too often lately, and I'm just like...
But you have been right.
By
You
the
were
way,
right
the
last
Colts
week.
are going throwback unis tomorrow. For a second, I thought that was trying to replicate the last time they beat the Steelers, 1956. Actually, I think they wore these same exact throwbacks last year against the Steelers, for what it's worth.
Did they really?
Not a whole lot of change to it. You add a stripe somewhere and you add a bucking horseshoe.
I was about to say the Colts released him, and I'm like, they basically look 98% like the jerseys you have right now.
Overwhelmingly different. Just as long as Pittsburgh doesn't wear those damn bumblebees, I'll be fine.
I feel like they haven't done that in a couple of years, have they?
They should have thrown those in the river.
I want to say
Put
Big
Heinz
Ben was the
ketchup on 'em.
quarterback. Big Ben was the quarterback.
Hideous.
Oh, they're terrible. They really are.
Speaking of Big Ben, I had someone in the YouTube chat mention that I've added a little weight here recently. I'm like, well,
That's a terrible thing to say.
sorry about you. I mean, look,
No, number one, you haven't. You're a slender guy.
first off,
That would be me
called
that
a
would add
dad
the
bod.
weight.
Secondly, it's the winter. Who doesn't add a little weight to hibernate?
Yeah.
Come on now.
I know.
I don't want to throw on extra layers. I'll just throw on a layer, to the figure.
If they're shading you, I don't want them to shade me at all. That's why I'm glad I'm off camera every once in a while.
What a terrible thing
You know
to
what?
say
I
on
see
a
Zaire
Friday to
Franklin
somebody.
getting in there on a 4th and 1. I'm trying to bulk up a little bit.
I mean, it
just
doesn't
in
help that
case.
you were asking Rakestraw about combos
need
and
it.
everything, Mountain Dew in one segment, but that's okay.
Guys, I repeat what I said last Friday. I've gone back and forth on this one. I
It's a
think
tough
Mitch
one.
Trubisky stinks, and I think a key element to Sunday is if you can somehow jump on them early, this is a team that I just think starts yelling at each other on the sidelines. Like they've had that, particularly offensively. They've had that with some of their, star players. So I think that is something to keep an eye on. Again, if you can kind of do what New England did to them last Thursday. Having said all of that, I just cannot get the TJ Watt presence out of my head. And it's a 7-point difference when TJ Watt plays. Again, Pittsburgh wins 2/3 of their game when he plays, and they're 1-9 without him. I think back to Trey Hendrickson last week. I think back to Myles Garrett in mid-October. I think back to both the meetings with Josh Allen and the Jags. When elite pass rushers have played this football team this season, they have wrecked the games. Watt's done it to this franchise before, and I am afraid he will do it again. I will go 17-13 Steelers, and there is certainly a large ounce in my brain right now that thinks, Kevin, did you watch Mitchell Trubisky play quarterback last Thursday? So maybe I'm putting way too much into the Watt stock and into their defense in general, because they have been, I think they're second in the league, I believe, in turnover margin. So they've needed to rely on that because their offense can't do a whole lot.
And it's a Minshew conversation, KB.
Yeah.
Minshew's, his turnovers. So you don't think they're going to be able to run the ball? The Colts as well. If they get 13 points, that means Zach Moss is going to have 40 yards in this game.
No, I don't. Because the thing about Pittsburgh, too, it's not just like Watt or bust. I mean, Mika Fitzpatrick picked 6 against the Colts, a handful of years ago. Huge play in that game. Cameron Hayward as an interior rusher. You ask Quentin Nelson. I mean, when Jacoby Brissett hurt his knee a few years ago, that was Cameron Hayward taking Quentin Nelson into Jacoby Brissett on that play. Last year, right here at Lucas Oil Stadium, Alex Highsmith, the other edge rusher, a big strip sack in this game. Offensively, as much of dysfunction as they have, they still have a couple of dudes that it's like, hey, you can't just ignore them. So, again, I've gone back and forth on this one a whole lot. I guess I'm out on an island when it's us 3, but I will say Pittsburgh 17.
No, it was a legit coin flip for me of going Steelers or Colts. And the way that Mitch Trubisky's been successful, having watched him in the Bears uniform, was that they give him high percentage short pass throws. They rely on a running game, which they have in Pittsburgh, and they have a dominant defense that can take the ball away and cause some havoc. So that's how he's been successful. That would be my fear as a Colts fan heading into Saturday afternoon.
One thing we haven't mentioned too much is the Colts defense. EJ Speed comes back, and we know that's a big deal. And the Colts defense is not having to deal with the Bengals. And I know it was Jake Browning, but that coaching staff, that offensive coaching staff, what they can get out of a quarterback.
Oh, certainly.
And then just their skill players and their overall scheme. That is not the Steelers. In fact, if you said a team that is quite literally the opposite of that, while all these other teams are winning with backup quarterbacks, okay? Or at least being competent, more than competent with backup quarterbacks, that has not been the Steelers. Can the Colts defense do some of the things that we're talking about the Steelers defense doing to them? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can they get of course, now listen, they got a pick 6 and they only scored 14 points, okay, against the Bengals. I totally understand it, but can they I guess for me, I am counting on this game that the Colts rebound from the nasty performance, the stinky performance that they had last week.
So they rebound, but you don't see Pittsburgh doing the same.
The question would be if the Steelers win and the quarterback play looks competent and TJ Watt's doing what he does, there's a chance we come in here on Monday and we say, oh, now they showed up, right? The last 2 weeks, the Steelers haven't been able to do those things. They've lost to 2-win teams in Pittsburgh. Oh, now they show up. No, it's a real fear. Listen, I have respected the Steelers and thought they were a playoff team until probably last week. I even gave them the mulligan, if you will. Who did they lose to first? It was Arizona, right?
Then New England,
I probably gave them the mulligan against Arizona. It's a sleepy game. You just beat the Bengals. Kyler Murray's back, and I kind of wrote it off. But when they doubled that by losing to the Patriots, that's to me where I kind of lost them. But listen, it's a big game. No matter who you pick, you're not wrong. This game could come down to the final couple minutes.
And, just what a golden opportunity. I mean, imagine saying to Shane Steichen at the start of the year, Shane, week 15 is going to roll around, okay?
Mid-December.
You're going to have a playoff game in your own building, playoff-like game, where if you win, you've got north of a 60% chance to make the playoffs, and the opponent is going to be starting Mitch bleeping Trubisky.
I know.
You'd say, and again, this is all a credit to Shane Steichen for coaching up a football team that has been in this position. And I'm curious, and this goes back to the earlier point about Watt, Andy. Has Shane kind of learned from those moments with Josh Allen and those moments with Myles Garrett and even last week with Trey Hendrickson? It's a fine balance because this offense right now, they need as many skill guys out on passing routes as possible because they're just not potent enough. You need as many guys out there as possible to try to have one of them be open. And, of course, the caveat with that is that means you're not chipping a Hendrickson or a Watt or, somebody like that. So, does he learn from the double move backed up in your own end zone against Myles Garrett back in mid-October when, to be fair, he tried to chip. It just wasn't very effective with Drew Ogletree and Blake Freeland in that moment there. Again, it's going to be easy for me to say, Blake Freeland coming up on Saturday. A couple other items of note. Again, it is an NFL Network game. That'll be Rich Eisen, Kurt Warner. I like that duo, by the way.
It's a good matchup, yeah.
On the call. And then banging the anvil.
Who is it? Let's go. I don't know who this is.
It will be the Fever's Aliyah Boston.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that makes a lot of sense with how big. Yeah.
Can they fly her into?
This past week has been. Yeah, Maddie was asking me about Caitlin Clark. And something I was thinking about is I believe Gatorade was just announced for her yesterday. I mean, when you think about the national brands endorsing her, I mean, it's Nike, it's Gatorade. It's not like the Iowa City mom and pop, flower shop or the Iowa City, meat market is sponsoring her. Those brands are going to want to continue to back her in her professional career. So I would like to think that would add to her wanting to go pro. And how would you not want to have Lynn Dunn talk to you endlessly?
One last thing. Josh Downs, can they get him going?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Last 5 weeks, 27 yards per game. Now, I know he had that injury issue with Carolina. We didn't think he was going to play. Even if you take that off the shelf, 40, 43, 14, and 32, just 3 targets in the Cincinnati game. Did have 3 catches on those 3 targets, but, I feel like Josh Downs is due. Do you not? Maybe 5 catches, 70, 75, 80 yards and a touchdown. That's what you need. They're going to need to do some of the, Downs, hit Pierce down the field, defense create something, Matt Gay knock in some field goals. Some of the things they haven't done the last week or two, they're going to have to do on Saturday.
One thing to add to that, Pittsburgh has really struggled with tight ends as of late. Now, the Colts don't necessarily have that number 1 tight end, but Pittsburgh's linebacker core inside linebacker core has really been decimated by injuries, so that will be something to keep an eye on as well. Couple of comments here related to, I believe it was Zachary in the YouTube chat that mentioned that I had added about 10 pounds. This one here, it's the new hair. It's science. I didn't know that.
I doubt it's 10 pounds of new
And how
hair.
about Aaron?
That would hurt your neck.
Aaron tags all of us in this. You all are nothing but twisted steel and sex appeal.
Yeah,
That's a
you,
nice
Aaron.
rhyme in the holiday season, Aaron. Woo! Thank you. You're on the nice list.
Yeah,
this
I don't
year.
know if that. I don't know if that's true either. I just know that
Lightning's about to strike the studio.
Yeah, I just don't think you've added any weight. I don't know any other way to
can't
say
believe
it.
you guys
We
were
see you every day. I just don't feel that at all. I feel like that's the wrong thing to say.
I can't believe you guys disparaged Greg Rakestraw's pizza combos and Mountain Dew
I didn't. I just
No,
know that
I think-
I'd need a toilet nearby.
for combos. You're not eating Skyline chili.
Do you go Mountain Dew? Now everyone loves the Diet Mountain Dew, and then the Code Red. I had a buddy back in college who was literally addicted to Code Red, like literally addicted to Code Red. And I had a
Well, in
co-host.
college, that's not a bad thing to be addicted to. To
Taking
be
it on
fair,
a
compared to some
spoon? What was
others.
he doing?
I had a co-host who was like in his 50s, addicted to Diet Mountain Dew. His entire trunk was Diet Mountain Dew. He drank at least 7 of them a day. 7 of them.
That's not so much diet anymore at that
What was
point.
his GPA?
He went to Virginia.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know how to Call of Duty double
Big
XP
time.
points, that's
Shout
for
out
sure,
to
with all that
Edie
Mountain
Whitaker
Dew.
in the
Boy,
Fighting
I know
UVAers.
exactly what Mark Dykton's talking about. The double XP points.
In 10 minutes, Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts. In about an hour, Michael Grady joins us.
Hellsberg Diamonds present
The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, final hour here. Been a fun week of shows here. Hanging out with you in the DriveHubler.com studios. Wake Up Call, KB and Andy. Mark Dykton producing today's effort. Miss any of the show? The podcast will be up. Check it out, 1075thefan.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You heard the promo there leading in. 12:30 hour coverage right here on The Fan. Tomorrow, Saturday game as the Steelers visit Lucas Oil. And to talk about that and much more, Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Maytay, good morning. How are you today, sir?
Good morning. I'm good. What's going on with you fellers?
Man, I'm just ready to go. Big weekend, big Saturday, then a full day of NFL, bunch of college basketball, bowl games starting up, holidays getting closer, anxiety that I purchased next to nothing for Christmas. For
I got
anybody.
10 days. It's a lifetime at this point.
Week and a half or so. So should be a lot of fun. Let me ask you this. Before we look at the game on Saturday, Pittsburgh coming into town, let's go back, if you don't mind. I asked Stephen Holder on Tuesday a very like question. I want to do the same with you here. What do you think in that Bengals game are you throwing away and saying it's a one-off? We're not going to see the Colts be that bad again in this particular area. And what sorts of things coming from that loss make you nervous about the game on Saturday?
Well, the part of last Sunday's game where you get the scope out and you rinse out the mouth, that's the special teams. That was really uncharacteristic, the way the Colts played in the third phase of the game, especially with the ultra-reliable Matt Gay, shanking a 38-yard field goal, that hits off the post and then misses the PAT, and then you had some blunders, jumping off sides, continuing a drive for Cincinnati where they go from scoring a field goal to a touchdown because of a penalty. You had guys running into, you had the blunder there on the muff punt that led to a field goal late in the game. So, special teams has been pretty good this season under first-year special teams coordinator in Brian Mason. So that was really uncharacteristic, the way that the third phase of the game really did not show out in Cincinnati. So that's part of this game, or this team, that I'm saying with 4 games to go is a little bit of a blip on the radar that I think is going to be shored up in short order here.
You got an analogy for us?
Ooh, he always does.
You ready for this one?
Yeah. Yeah, let's go.
Boy, is this off the top of your head, or have you been thinking about this?
This is like 5 minutes to go before you called. Popped into my head.
You're like, gosh,
so
Kevin's going to ask me some dumb analogy question.
This game is like the pretty girl in high school.
Okay.
The really popular girl that's maybe out of your league a little bit.
There's no maybe about it, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, especially for you guys.
Yep.
But all week long, all day long, it's like Friday. You're trying to find the courage to ask her to the prom, or to ask her to the big dance, ask her to homecoming, and you're trying to find the right window. Maybe you get her by the locker, maybe you get her at lunch, but you just can't find the right place to get in front of her to ask her out. And hey, it's school gets let out at 3:00. It's 2:00 right now. You're going to the 7th period. You still haven't found the right chance to do it, but you better do it, because at the end of the day, she's going home with the older guy that's got the cool car that lives in her neighborhood, and is going to take her home before the parents get home from work around 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Oh, boy.
Right?
Easy now.
Very descriptive here. Yes.
That guy's name is Chad, by the way.
Yeah, and
The detail on this is just impeccable, Matt Taylor. You're
Right?
painting a picture more beautiful than you do every Sunday.
Because we've all been there. That's why we've all lived this, and so it's you know what's going to happen if you don't ask her out. You know what's going to happen if the older, better looking dude that has the garage pass is able to get in with her. You know what's going to happen. So that's why this game for the Colts is so big. The cute girl in this analogy, that's the playoffs here for the Colts, because you still got 3 games to go after this one, but it's going to be really tough to get in front of that cute girl and convince her to go home with you and to go to the prom with you, whatever you want to say. So that's why this game for the Colts tomorrow is so big, because things can be swayed in such a positive direction if you get a win. And obviously if you don't get a win, it's going to be really, really tough, just because of the log jam of the other 5, 7, and 6 teams in the AFC conference right now. So that's a really, really bad, cheesy analogy, but that's
good,
where
man.
you're at.
That's pretty good.
Late in the season here, right? You know what time it is. You're going into seventh period, and you need to make a move, show some courage,
Scratch and claw.
pull off an upset.
That was a peek behind the
Scratch and
curtain.
claw here. Matt Taylor, that was absolutely beautiful. If you could pull that off with
Well
Rick
done.
Venturi tomorrow, that would be awesome. Now, I don't know where T.J. Watt fits into said analogy, Matt Taylor, but throughout the show today, I've talked about his presence, and to me, and I'm sure you've seen the numbers as well, it's astonishing how different Pittsburgh is with him on the field, with him off it. It's a 7-point difference for their defense, 26 points to 19. They've won, I think it's 67% of the games over the last 4 years with him in the lineup. It's 10% when he's out. And I look at Blake Freeland and think, man, this is just, boy, a lot of attention. And then the balance of, okay, don't you need those guys out on route trees, et cetera, et cetera. You get into obvious passing situations. I am very worried about T.J. Watt come tomorrow afternoon.
I mean, and why wouldn't you be? I mean, the guy is just an unbelievable ball player. I mean, in year 7 already, he's got the franchise record for sacks. And you talk about the Steelers. I mean, they're sack city as a franchise. I mean, they are known for disruption, getting after quarterbacks, and he leads the charge in all the great defensive players they've had in the history of their franchise. So it's not only him, though, KB. It's Highsmith as well, and he's healthy, and both guys are going to play on Saturday. They're going to both bring, their 20 combined sacks to Lucas Oil Stadium tomorrow. So you're exactly right. That was a negative break for the Colts, with both guys clearing concussion protocol in short order, having, started the protocol or, started that process last Saturday, stemming from their Thursday night game against the Patriots. So you're right. I mean, how do you combat that with a rookie right tackle trying to slow him down, whether it's Watt on Freeland or Highsmith on Freeland, because they're going to rotate some, not a lot. But for the most part, you're asking a first-year player to slow down, the 2021 Defensive Player of the Year that's got 90-plus sacks in his career, that's got a full arsenal of pass rush moves, that's just kind of licking his chops, not only against a rookie right tackle, but a backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew. Those two guys, Highsmith and certainly J.J. Watt, those are the two X factors for the Colts tomorrow. There's no doubt about that.
If we're talking T.J. Watt in the analogy, guys, and help me here, isn't T.J. Watt the guy at the rival high school who's also good-looking, who can ask the pretty girl out and just
Chad's
ruin
cousin.
everything?
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what
Don't
TJ
look
Watt
at me.
is
This
going
is
to be.
Matt Taylor's story here. So, Matt, that's all you.
Yeah, he might be like the car that the popular good-looking guy drives in this scenario. And it's crazy because it is such an advantage for Pittsburgh to have those two guys tomorrow because, I know you guys were talking about this earlier in the week, but offensively, Pittsburgh is just so sluggish, right? They got a backup quarterback now in Mitch Trubisky. Pickens is kind of falling off a little bit. Johnson is their main target. They're running the ball, but not to, a tune where they're scoring 25, 30 points per game. I mean, their season average is 16 points per game for a reason. And their defense is just elite, especially in the second half when they get a sense of, who you are that day, what you're trying to do, how you're trying to move the ball against them. They're kind of like Belichick, right? They make you play left-handed. They take away your best options. And, in the second half on the season, they're giving up only 7 points per game past halftime for the season, right? They have the number one margin in the NFL, scoring margin, in the second half this year. So it's really important for the Colts to get off to a good start, not turn the football over, because that's what Pittsburgh wants you to do. Pittsburgh is kind of this boring, I hate to say it, but kind of like this boring, kind of slug it out type of football team on offense. They're running the ball pretty well. They're not turning the ball over. They're tied for the fewest turnovers or the fewest giveaways in the NFL this season. On defense, they don't have great numbers in terms of total defense. They're not great against the run, not great against the pass, but they've got a low point total allowed number because they're really good at taking the football away, and they're really good at keeping points or keeping you out of the end zone once you get inside the 20-yard line, making you settle for field goals. So that formula has kept them in games. They're 7-2 in one-score games this year. They've played 9 one-score games, which is the most in the NFL. They got a boatload of Minnesota wins where they're even trailing at the end of the third quarter going into the fourth quarter because their defense is so stingy past halftime. They're riding that defense, and that's why it was going to be advantage Colts if you didn't have Watt and Highsmith available, but of course now the Steelers do. So that's why the first 30 minutes I think is so important for the Colts to beat the Steelers in that first half and kind of set the tone and make more plays in the fourth quarter, which obviously Pittsburgh has had a habit of doing in these one-score games.
It's a great stat on second-half defense. Did not know that. Matt Taylor with us here. Payless Liquors Hotline, voice of the Indianapolis Colts. Again, 12:30 coverage here tomorrow as the Steelers in town there in Lucas Oil. The running game the last two games, Jonathan Taylor out. We know it's going to be heavy doses again of Zach Moss. 55 and 46. Those are the rushing outputs the last two games. Do you think they can turn that around? And if so, how do they turn that around Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, you're just going to have to pry it open, like to steal a line from Rick. You just have to come up with some more creative ways. You're not going to really, pound them up front schematically. You're not going to, for lack of a better term, you're not going to have more physicality than Pittsburgh because of how they play. You're going to have to match that, but you're going to have to somehow schematically pry open the running game because you're right, Andy. I mean, the last two games you've combined for 101 yards rushing, 2.5 yards per carry. Those are the lowest rushing numbers in back-to-back games for the Colts since the 2018 season. So I think sort of the troubles for the Colts offensively the last couple of games, it kind of stems from their inability to get some big runs. I think the Colts only have one run over 10 yards in the last two games as well. So, schematically you're going to have to get creative, put some people in motion, maybe have an unbalanced line, run some whams, pull some guys. It's not just the inside zone or the outside zone. They're going to mix it up between, what Rick calls that under front defensively. They're going to mix in some bear with those pinched in defensive tackles and nose tackles. So schematically, you're just going to have to be good in situational football. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to be better running the ball on first down because I think in the last two games, the Colts have 17 first down rush attempts for only 50 yards. So that's not putting you in second down and 5 or getting you into third down and 4 or less. That's putting you a lot of the times in, third down and 8, third down and 10, where the probability of getting those are really tough when teams get exotic on defense. And that has led to the Colts having a really poor third down conversion number. I mean, I think they only have 17 third down conversions in the last 5 games. The last 2 games, they're 6 for 25 combined on third down conversion tries. So that's not going to cut it against a Pittsburgh defense, like I said, that especially in the second half is so good at getting you off the field, taking the football away, getting you into third and precarious. So, situational rushing, I think, is big because you're not going to run for probably 160 or flirt with 200 yards rushing in this game, but you're going to have to be good in spot.
You got to get something.
Get a good yards per carry average.
Yeah, you got to get something. It can't be, it just can't be bad run or a penalty and then then Minshew's having to throw against TJ Watt.
I was going to say,
it's just not going to work. Yeah.
Of the obvious, to say the least. His beautiful storyline Hollywood film will be on, I believe, USA tonight around 8 or 9 o'clock. Quite
the Hallmark Channel.
The Hallmark Channel, quite the high school romance that Matt Taylor painted for us earlier in describing the analogy. For this one, again, about a 40% shift in playoff odds, 60-ish with a win, 20-ish with a loss. That's what is at stake tomorrow at 4:30. Our coverage, I'm guessing 12:30, right? Don't we do 4 hours before kickoff? I would guess 12:30. That will begin. Matt Taylor, have a great call, and we'll talk to you next Friday, man.
Will do. I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend.
Voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. 12:30, does that sound right? JMV at Bullseye?
It's 12:30. Yeah, that's what it is. Yep.
JMV at Bullseye around 12:30, and then, of course, again, that 4:30 kickoff. NFL Network, locally, CBS 4, Rich Eisen, Kurt Warner. The latest on the line, 1.5-point favorite, the Colts in this one. By the way, Michael Grady going to join us in about 20-25 minutes as the Pacers play the T-Wolves tomorrow night.
I'm excited for that one. I'm excited for these Pacer games. Aren't you? You excited?
Yeah, what about Monday night?
I'm excited for these games. I'm ready to go.
Paul George do anything for you? Or are we kind of over the Paul George is returning to Indy?
Well, I mean, Bobby Marks was on with JMV and was like, "Hey, there might be a chance Paul George, free agent at the end of the year, maybe he would be an option for the Pacers." If I'm a Pacer fan, I would like to just move on from that and get some other guys.
Ball game.
Oh,
so no, it doesn't do too
much.
much.
That's not the Hollywood story. That's soft.
I didn't think you were a Paul George fan.
I am a Paul George fan.
Oh,
I don't think Pacers fans acknowledge on the floor what he did for this franchise.
I mean, he's a good player.
Ended very sourly.
Sure.
I think Paul has some obvious regret, and I would agree with that. But on the floor, that was a damn good basketball player for this franchise at a critical time when you really needed someone with Danny Granger's injury situation turning in the opposite direction. Paul George's last 3 games in Indy, by the way.
Okay.
45 points last season, 36 a couple years ago, and 36 as well the year before that. So when he's come back to Indy, it has been quite the...
Yeah, so he's putting up 35 points.
Well, 46 or 45 if you
he
want to
might
look
put
at
up
last
35,
year.
40 points, knowing how the defense has been for the Pacers this season.
The first response that I got from my Paul George comments right here from Charlie. Paul George, GTFOH, I believe that stands for something that means they do not want to see Paul George in Indy.
You're in the minority here.
Oh, without question.
Well, yeah, in fact, I don't think it's even close. I'm just going to be agnostic here. I'm just going to
people
be in the
acknowledge
middle,
him
not believing in anything.
I just don't think people look at those Miami runs and getting to the brink of possibly making the NBA Finals.
Sure. They
and
look at
realize his impact. So, yeah. That's where I'm at with Paul George. All right, Michael Grady in 20. Pop quiz, 317-239-1070. Phone lines open for that. Let's go with the morning checkdown.
The morning checkdown. Omaha! On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, let's start there. Lucas Oil coming up tomorrow. It's going to be Colts hosting the Steelers. We know how big of a game it is. Yesterday, Shane Steichen talking about that very subject.
I think everyone kind of knows, but, we still got 4 games left. And to me, this is another game, but we know the importance of it. You know what I mean? And we got to go out and execute and play together, play for each other. And that's really the message. You know what I mean? We're at home. We got our home crowd, and our guys are excited, and we're ready for the opportunity.
Colts favored 1.5 is the current number. 42.5 is your over/under. Both teams 7-6, 6-7, I should say, right there in the playoff rankings. Our coverage tomorrow beginning at 12:30.
All right, coming up. Well, let's stick with the NFL. Actually, last night, wow, good for Al Michaels, I guess. Raiders and Chargers. The Raiders had scored 0 5 days earlier. Last night at halftime, they had 42. Mark, you've got to find the Brandon Staley clip at halftime of his halftime interview. They're down 42-0. If you're Brandon Staley there, don't you just say, you know what? I think I'm just going to act like I don't see you and just run in the locker room. Do I give him credit for stopping for the halftime interview?
Well, you can just make up whatever he said. Staley said we need to keep our head down and play for pride in the second half. Did he say that? No, but that's what I think he said.
First half. This wasn't good enough. That wasn't us out there. Did not come ready to play. Second half, we got to fight for pride. But it's a good group. We got to regroup at halftime. Come out and try to play better second half.
They were down 42-0. They fought for pride by then letting up 21 more. I guess they did score a touchdown in between that. It was 63-7 at one point. The final 63-21. Aiden O'Connell, a big night there for the Raiders. They scored touchdowns in every facet. I mean, no matter how you look at it. Just an absolute ass-kicking, and Brandon Staley, he's got to be fired by noon, right?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like everyone knows he's going to be gone. It's like, it's one of those things where does it happen? I mean, I guess it could happen, but if they haven't fired him, like, why is this the breaking point? Because they allowed 63. I mean, they've been a pathetic football team all year. They scored 0 points the week before. Ugh, give us a swoop, Mark. Okay. Oh, what a mess. College basketball, it's a big one. Indiana and Kansas, that's coming up 12:30 tomorrow. You can find that one CBS, hear it over on IBC. Purdue, Arizona, number 1 versus number 3. Peacock, baby, 4:30, Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Can I wait for that one? It'll be a fun one. I like that one.
Again, the first game there, Indiana State, Ball State, 145 in the Indy Classic. Both those teams off to great starts on this season. And Butler back in action tonight over at Hinkle, Saginaw Valley State. So a busy slate of basketball after finals week pretty much everywhere from a college standpoint. Couple other local items of note. Indiana football, Curt Cignetti getting a quarterback commit. Curtis Rourke from Ohio put up some big numbers in the MAC over the last few seasons. Canadian guy, big quarterback. Coming over here from the Bobcats. MAC Offensive Player of the Year, I believe, 2 years ago. And then Mr. Football. We talked with Greg Rakestraw about this earlier. That would be Josh Ringer from East Central. Andy on the season, 55 rushing touchdowns.
That's unbelievable.
2,880 rushing yards.
Good for him.
He was the runaway winner of Mr. Football. Tyler Cherry, the Center Grove quarterback, finished second. Crown Point linebacker Will Clark finishing third. All right, pop quiz is next. 317-239-1070. Michael Grady in 15.
Guys, solve your ED today with an intimacy guarantee.
You studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, Pop Quiz, Freebie Friday. Reminder coming up in about 15 minutes. Michael Grady will talk some Pacer T-Wolves. We'll do that here in a few minutes. You know, I should mention, I did not mention this at all. I did not mention this at all week, and shame on me. I think it was last Friday, went to the Jiffy Lube luncheon. Greg Rakestraw was the MC of the whole thing, KB.
Of course.
Of course he was. I sat next to him, and we shot the bull, if you will. But Jiffy Lube was honoring and was giving, free service to people who do good and great things in the community, charitable work in the community. So that was at the zoo.
It's been a big staple of them.
Yeah, it really has been. So we appreciate them being on the show, and it's a Freebie Friday. So somebody, one of our listeners here, going to get an oil change. KB, I'll let you pick. Always put this on you, by the way. I always let you pick and be the good guy and bad guy. Pick the caller. What do you want to do?
A lot of oil changes this week, by the way.
We have. Scotty, a little soft with the Pop Quiz. I believe last night the game we were watching the most was number 2 ranked Texas in the volleyball Final Four, the Bowen household. So let's go with number 2.
Cliff.
Good morning, Cliff. How are you, man?
Doing good. How are you?
Cliff, you aren't Cliff Delacroix, my assistant golf coach from high school, are you?
I am not.
Okay, all right. Straight to the point. I respect that.
Wish you would have said, yes, I am.
Cliff, where does your fandom lie? What are you, big sports fan of a team, an athlete? Where are we looking?
I'm straight fanatic. Yeah, I have issues.
Just all local teams?
No, I'm a Colts fan, for sure.
Okay,
all football.
All right, and how do we feel about tomorrow?
Honestly, not good, but hey, they play them for a reason.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Thank you, Mark, for that. Cliff, I think, needs it. Cliff, are you in the building tomorrow?
I am not.
Okay, a lot of terrible towels, I'm afraid, tomorrow. We'll see about that again. 4:30 kick, Colts and Steelers. Cliff doing his best Shane Steichen impression here.
Yes,
he is direct. He's going to be
all business. He's
and
all
you know
ball.
what? If he has the intelligence of Shane Steichen, that would be a good thing with this pop quiz. Andy Sweeney, toss number 1.
All right, let's go, Cliff. You're already a winner, but let's feel good about ourselves going into the weekend. The Vegas Raiders scored 63 points. They thrashed the Chargers last night on Thursday Night Football, including postseason games. Which team holds the record for the most points scored in an NFL game? Is it the Rams, the Dolphins, the Bears, the Redskins?
Go with the Redskins.
You sure about that, Cliff? Mark Dykton's got some vivid memories of this one.
The Bears.
Okay, the Bears.
Good start.
Cliff number 2, RIP to a legend. That would be George McGinnis, passing away yesterday at the age of 73. Absolute icon here in the state of Indiana. Ranks 3rd in points per game during his time with the Pacers, 19.6. 2nd in rebounds at 10.7. 3 other players rank in the Pacers' top 10 in both categories, points and rebounds. Which of the following is not in the top 10 in points per game and rebounds per game as a Pacer? So not in the top 10. Would that be Domantas Sabonis, Mel Daniels, Jermaine O'Neal, or Clark Kellogg?
The first one, Domantas Sabonis.
All right, question number 3.
So far, Shane Steichen like.
In fact, KB has mentioned this like 5 times during today's show, including about 2 minutes ago, because I was looking at Scotty's face when you mentioned it. Name one of the 2 teams that have advanced to the championship game of the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship. Just one of them.
Oh, man.
Jermaine O'Neal's daughter, by the way, the best player on one of these teams.
Tennessee.
Tennessee?
Vanderbilt?
Okay. All right. We got one more, Cliff, for us here?
Heck, I really don't. We'll just go Kentucky.
Number 4, Cliff, 50 years ago today, that would be December 15th, 1973. Tennessee defeated Temple 11-6. I mean, who cares? A tough defensive struggle in a college bowl game, Scotty asks. No, this was a men's college basketball game. It wouldn't be until 1986 that the NCAA instituted a shot clock in college hoops. How much time was on the shot clock during that first season? Was it 60 seconds? Was it 45 seconds? Was it 30 seconds or 24?
45.
Pretty good. Cliff's doing pretty well today. All right, last one. Question number 5. Today marks the 98th anniversary of the first hockey game being played in what legendary arena? 98th anniversary. The Montreal Forum, Chicago Stadium, Maple Leafs Gardens, Madison Square Garden.
Maple Leaf Garden. Maple Leaf.
Cliff, who's your favorite Colt of all time? Can't be Peyton.
Can't be Peyton. Favorite Colt. Probably Bob Sanders.
That is a very, very good guess there. Yeah, boy, I love Bob Sanders. Loved how he hit. I thought Juju Brent showed some nice physicality earlier this year when he was in the lineup, especially for a defensive back there. All right, let's see how Cliff did. I believe 1 and 2 were both correct, right? Bears, Sabonis?
Yes, they were. I'm a little disappointed in 3 just because you mentioned it 4 or 5 times today. I don't like that.
Yeah, I know. So he gave us what? He gave us Tennessee. He gave us Vanderbilt. He gave us Kentucky.
He gave us Kentucky, but the women's volleyball championship, he could have went with Texas or Nebraska. Both would have been accepted. And then he got question 4 right. Question 5, the 98th anniversary of the first hockey game played in which legendary arena? MSG, Madison Square Garden. Canadians, New York Americans. 3-1 final there on 12/15/1925.
Again, earlier today, from a local standpoint, we had announced here the Indoor Football League. Going to have a team up in Fishers. Again, that'll be at the new arena just south of IKEA. Indy Fuel going to be playing in that arena as well. It is the Fishers Freight. Little nickel plate reference there. Certainly those that have driven through downtown Fishers know full well about that rail line. So the Fishers Freight there. I can't wait to see who their coach is going to be. Yeah. You think Jeff Saturday would take that job?
We're going to get him on the air and grill him? Is
Urban
that what
Meyer,
we're going to
maybe?
do? Urban Meyer.
Tom Allen coaching the Fishers Freight? I mean, come on.
The Fishers Freight are going to play great football. All 3 phases, guys.
Give us an LEO. That was a great Tom Allen.
LEO. Is that Bruce Weber or is that Tom Allen? They're both of my impersonations are pretty limited and they both sound pretty much the same.
They were separated at birth with that effort there by you. Michael Grady, he joins us next.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life?
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, Michael Grady going to join us here in just a few minutes. Reminder, busy. Colts and almost gave him the wrong name. Colts and Steelers coming up tomorrow, 12:30. We'll have the coverage right here on The Fan. Reminder as well, you miss any of the shows. You miss us, JMV, Query and Company. We got you covered, 1075thefan.com. As we track down, Michael, what you got cooking this weekend? Just Colts on Saturday, little 2TV action in the press box on Saturday, sitting next to Chap. What else you got going on?
Yeah, that's honestly it. Outside of that, just hanging with the kids, a little bit of Christmas shopping. Again, unfortunately, Maddie a little hobbled with a broken foot.
How's she doing, by the way?
She's doing good. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, she's more mad. She's just more mad than anything that she's got to go through it. But should hope, fingers crossed, that she can start putting some weight on it coming up. Actually, the day after Christmas is her next appointment. Maybe get the cast off. So, yeah, outside of that, like I said, last night we did the Sullivan Train. Awesome. Pat Sullivan runs an incredible operation up there. That was a really, really fun time. Rosie actually, just walked right up to Santa, spoke with him.
Everything was good.
And claimed she was on the nice list.
Really? Okay.
And I got confirmation from the big fella.
I was going to say, she claimed
Yeah.
that's
He gave me a
not
head
the
nod.
way it works.
No,
Okay.
he gave me a head nod.
He gave you a good to go then.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys got any plans?
No. Well, I mean, we have actually a big weekend. I'm going to be. We're at a wedding on Saturday. Part of the time on Saturday,
Nice.
so we're gonna be doing that.
Where's that at?
And then it's in Southern Indiana.
Okay.
So buddy of mine getting married. This is him and hers. Their second marriage. So some people they just they take it easy since they've been through the process.
I'd
one
say you
time.
party harder, right?
Not them. Yeah, not them. It's gonna be even more drinking. So we're gonna be doing that. And the little one gonna be hanging out with the grandparents while all of that is going on. I will say. The in-laws, I was going to do a dad dilemma on this. The in-laws, when they visit us, we have like a password to basically every streaming service.
Right.
And they don't. And, we hand some off. But, like Netflix, you can't do that anymore, right? You got to, eventually, it's got to ping at the place where it says the account is coming from. KB, they watched about 3 hours of Sex in the City.
Ooh.
Which I
got nervous there at the first one there.
I hate that show about as much as anyone could hate a show.
Oh my!
And that show, especially watching it in the background with your in-laws watching it. I mean, every scene is suggestive. It's about what it says in the title.
And that bothers you?
Well, it doesn't bother me, but if
I mean, at least you know what you're getting into.
Okay, so here's what happened.
Oh, this is awkward.
They were going to watch Game of Thrones. They had never seen Game of Thrones. And so they started Game of Thrones, and I told them, okay, I'll watch it with you. But
Wait a minute.
Okay, hang on, Mark. You're probably thinking what I'm thinking. I'll watch that with you, but just know that's a show you have to dial into, right? You can't
you got to be locked in.
Yeah, you can't passively watch it, okay? And so they're watching it. So I leave the room, I come back, and Sex and the City's on. But, Mark, you're probably thinking what I thought. Some of those Game of Thrones scenes, especially...
they can get a little Sex in the City.
Especially at the very beginning. There's a very graphic nude scene at the very beginning.
Covered little gas
family members doing other things to family members that are frowned upon these days.
Well, so I thought I was going to have to, say, hey, there's a lot of stuff that happens in that show, but I leave and they have Sex in the City on, which is kind of the same stuff, but it's not the killing and the
this
castles
is me,
and everything else.
Babysitter, in-laws, if they're watching the kids, they could watch an adult film for 10 hours for all I care. Just the fact that they're doing that.
Amen.
That's all that matters.
That's basically
Rosie
what I
and Max
said.
are happy and alive. That
doesn't matter.
All that matters. Again, we have got an absolutely loaded Saturday slate. If we do take a look ahead, Andy, to next week, again, we've got Christmas coming up next weekend. So it's kind of a crazy NFL slate. If you look at it next weekend, we are going to have 3 games coming up. So you're going to have the typical Thursday nighter next week, which is Saints and Rams.
Yeah, that's not a bad game. If the
two
Rams,
teams very much in the playoff
if the Rams win this weekend, that's going to be a huge game, and the Saints are going to be in it to Week 18 because of how bad the NFC South is.
Next Saturday's the 23rd. 2 big AFC games for the Colts. Bengals, Steelers, then Bills, Chargers. Dear Lord, could the Chargers respond? So that is Saturday the 23rd. Then Christmas Eve is Sunday. You'll get, for the most part, kind of a normal Sunday slate, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Sunday night football games. The Colts are at the Falcons next Sunday. Again, Christmas Eve, 1 o'clock. And then on Christmas Day, a week from Monday, you're going to get a kind of a Thanksgiving slate. 1, 4:30, 8:15, 3 games, those 3, Raiders, Chiefs, Giants, Eagles, and then Ravens, 49ers. Andy Sweeney, I know you are laughing a little bit at the Giants on Christmas Day. All of a sudden, you've got like the plucky Raiders and the plucky Giants taking on the Chiefs and Eagles, and Ravens 49ers.
It's a huge game.
Is that a Super Bowl preview?
I mean, it's a huge game. Ravens going for that number 1 seed. Niners, are they the best team? NFC, NFL. If the Giants would, if the Giants had the Saints, if they win this weekend, and I know woulda, shoulda, coulda, and all that, if they would have held on to a game they absolutely gave away in the Jets, that game would mean something. But the punch in the gut is they play the Eagles 2 times in the last 3 games, and the Eagles have just, KB, they've bullied them as much as a team.
Well, you don't
can
bully Tommy
another
DeVito.
Team. Hell no, you don't.
You can bully Daniel
don't.
Jones. You can't bully the DeVitos.
You better believe it. You can't do that. So
I saw Schefter tweeted this morning the agent just got inducted into the Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame.
I mean, he's having his 15 minutes of fame, isn't he?
Who's in that? Bargnani?
It's a great
Gallinari?
question. I have absolutely
Tommy Lasorda, I know for a fact, is.
Okay.
Tommy Lasorda's in it?
There you go. I had no idea. And then, Raiders-Chiefs probably is not a good game at all unless, Kansas City, if they keep falling apart. Kansas City, they're in New England this week, so you would imagine as good as that Patriot. I don't know. That Patriot defense is good. You would imagine the Chiefs win. Maybe the offense continues to look stinky. I don't know. That's a possibility. I would imagine that's a possibility. But the NFL now taking over. They're taking over the NBA, right? That's basically what's going on here.
I totally forgot about that.
They're taking over the NBA.
To do the 5 Christmas games.
It used to be. You would just lock in. You would have the 5 games. You'd have a Knicks game. You'd
now,
have
will they
the Lakers or Suns.
do this once Christmas next year gets into like Tuesday and Wednesday?
It's a good question.
That really jumbles the old schedule makers late.
No, it does.
In the year.
No, it's a good question. The games. So here are the games. On Monday, December 25th, Christmas Day, here are the NBA games. Now this is going from noon all the way to night. You have Bucks, Knicks, Warriors, Nuggets, Celtics, Lakers, Sixers, Heat, Mavs, Suns. Those are the games that you'll be looking at there.
It's a great NFL slate.
You mean NBA slate?
No, NFL.
Or you mean NFL and NBA
NBA
combined?
is rather given, unless you have massive injuries. But from an NFL standpoint, that's what you want. You want 6-ish teams right around in the race. A few of your marquee teams, of course. And again, Ravens, 49ers right now, those are both the number 1 seeds, correct?
Yeah. No, they are.
So again, that is looking ahead for the Colts. Again, it'll be the Steelers tomorrow at 4:30. That is NFL Network simulcasted on CBS 4 here locally, and if you're trying to do the multi-screen, you'll peacock it for the Boilermakers and the Wildcats. I was thinking about this. We had Matt Painter on earlier in the week. I watched Arizona obviously pretty closely last year when they played Indiana, and Umar Ballo, their big guy in that game, I was very impressed by him and just their overall front court in general. And so that's why I do think this is a pretty unique challenge for Purdue. I know Big Ten-wise, they have seen size at Zach Edey in years past, whether it was Kofi Coburn or Hunter Dickinson or Trace Jackson Davis. But again, Arizona's got a couple of dudes. We're talking 7 foot, 250, 260. They've been really good at not fouling this year. Obviously, that's always a big topic with Zach Edey. So I know when we had Rake on earlier, a lot of it's just, it's a notable game, but all I care about is March. I still, I think, enjoy seeing how Purdue matches up against an Arizona team that, we just don't see a lot of given the time zones. And you could get to March, Andy, and all of a sudden you could be looking at, and not to get too ahead of yourself.
Oh, these are 1 seeds.
You could be looking at multiple 1 seeds here.
These are 1 seeds.
And if Purdue's able to overcome, obviously, the March hiccups, maybe this is 2 teams that meet in, where are we at, Phoenix this year for the Final Four?
I believe we are. That'd be a little home court advantage. No, listen, I believe Purdue is a 1 seed. I will say this about Rakestraw, even though there's he did mention, like you just said, that everything is about what they do once the Big Ten tournament ends. I don't disagree with that. In fact, I have found myself with Purdue very much falling into that, and part of it is because they're so good. They're going to win, and they've already won so many big-time games. I think they win on Saturday, and then they get in the Big Ten. We talk about the Big Ten right now. It's Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin's a back-end top 25 team.
And it goes to the only 3 top 20 teams,
Yeah, I mean,
Northwestern obviously is going to fall out after losing to Chicago State.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to Chicago State. That's going to be something. That's a loss potentially that haunts them if they're on the edge, back-end seeding and everything else for the NCAA tournament. But every time I hear anybody, this is not me picking on Greg, anytime anyone says, including myself, well, it's about what they do in March when talking about Purdue, I hear Mike DeCourcy in my head scold me to enjoy the ride. And that's a little bit of what you're saying.
I'm with Mike DeCourcy. And I don't know, maybe this is because I'm a Notre Dame football fan and my lifetime, Andy, the old national title hasn't been hoisted very much. But it's like, can I not enjoy a big win against Clemson?
Right.
Can I not enjoy, if I'm Purdue, winning Maui in the fashion that they did it? Hell, if you want to go down to Bloomington, what has been the best Indiana basketball moments over the last decade-ish? A watch shot victory?
The watch shot was, what was it? We just had the anniversary.
2012?
Yeah, we just had the anniversary of that 2-3 days ago.
How about 2 wins over Purdue last year?
Yeah, probably.
Regular season games for
they were
Indiana.
great games.
Should those not be celebrated? I understand that, yes, you hang banners for March and things like that, but also as a fan, you'd be just burying yourself 6 feet under if you choose to ignore and have zero celebration or enjoyment over the other things. And to be fair, I don't think all Purdue fans fall into that sort of boat of, hey, all that matters is March.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Hell, just look at the ticket prices for tomorrow.
Yeah,
You're going to see
I need to look them up
a
again.
lot of whole black and gold in that building. I'm curious to see how much Arizona is in there.
Oh, they're gonna have 5 fans there,
right? But
I'm sure
these
somebody.
prices are just, it's astronomical, and I don't know if Indiana State and Ball State are really putting a huge chunk of that there. But
if you want 2 together, I'm looking right now. I don't know. I don't know. When I say this, with fees and everything, you can get in the door for probably $1.50 a ticket. Which is a lot for a that's a lot for a college, for a 40-minute college basketball
And when you
game.
say get in the door, you're saying section 220.
I'm looking at section 207 right now. Yeah, I'm looking at 207. If you want more mid-court, you're going to spend over $200 with fees, probably $250 a ticket. And then obviously anything in the 100 section or the lower level where Jake Query sits, all that's going to be $1,800, $600, stuff like that.
Some buddies and I did a 6-pack of Pacer games. This is probably 6 or 7 years ago, but maybe even longer than that. And I want to say ours broke down to around 30-ish a game to sit up in the bleeds. So, you're talking triple the value, a little bit more than
fantastic.
That for Purdue and Arizona.
It doesn't look like we're going to have Michael Grady on, but just quickly,
do you think he heard Return of the Mac?
Maybe,
Mark?
maybe that was
no.
It's all been straight to voicemail. It's like, oh no,
that's
he
a
heard.
phone
so
that's
maybe
off.
Monday. We'll see.
Blaming Mark for this.
No, but also, I hope Grady's okay. Who turns their phone off?
Well,
I would break into a cold sweat.
To be fair, and Mark can probably back this up, they were They were in Dallas last night.
Yeah.
I assume a late flight home.
Yeah, they won in Dallas.
We are probably talking wee hours of the morning, Michael Grady.
He'll be in Miami on Monday, so maybe we could try for Monday
There
before
you
he paints the town red.
They're 18-5. They won 42 games. Did the Timberwolves last year? They have obviously a 78 win percentage right now. They're 18-5. They won in Dallas last night. We didn't really get to this. I don't think this is going to happen. But just looking at Twitter, how much? And I'm asking everybody here, but I'm of course directing this at Kevin Bowen. How much do you think, how much would you even want the Pacers to play the villain role a little bit? Again, I don't think they're going to. I think Giannis and the Bucks were in the wrong on what happened the other night. I don't believe that this is something that is going to follow the Pacers. I've seen a couple Bucks people on Twitter put out, the Pacers are a trash-talking team and all of this. I don't believe that they're ever going to be the bad guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Would you want them to have that? You want them to have a chip on their shoulder, but I don't think they're ever going to be seen that way.
I want them to play with an edge. And whatever that means. If that means an extracurricular or 2 after a whistle, if that means a Bobby Portis type reaction if someone fouls Tyrese Halliburton in a hard manner, then yes, I do want that. But ultimately, again, if the LA Chargers would have tried to be the enforcer last night, we would have laughed at them. There's an element of, yes, you've got to back it up with your play on the floor. And again, to be fair to what happened on Wednesday night, and I said this yesterday, Andy, 95% of our audience, because it happened so late in the game last night, they probably only really have seen what happened after the final horn and all the way into the tunnel and what happened with
it was a late game.
Giannis and Halbert.
It's a 3-hour NBA game almost.
Ended past 11 almost. Watching that second half unfold, though, I literally had to jot it down. I go, I love this intensity. I love the edginess. I love the fact that the Pacers have kind of earned this out of the Bucks to where, guys, they're pushing our buttons. Now, again, for this to continue and for the respect level and the intensity to still be there, you're going to have to continue to do your part from a win standpoint. And, boy, I can't wait. January 1st and 3rd, it'll be in Milwaukee the 1st, here the 3rd. Cannot wait. And I said it earlier in the show, and I mean this in all seriousness. First time out, okay? I don't know, is that when they do the deal or no deal? Or, I don't know, boomers driving around in an Indy car?
The first TV, you're talking about the first TV timeout,
first TV timeout. I don't know if the Pacemates, we need to push all that to the back burner.
Get the Pacemates out of the way.
First TV timeout, we need Oscar Tshiebwe, we need Kevin Pritchard, and let's get Boomer out there. Those three, mid-court, present the first NBA point ball to Mr. Tshiebwe there. Maybe kind of wait late in the timeout for when Adrian Griffin's huddle is kind of evaporated a little bit and the Bucks are starting to come back on the floor. That's number one. And then number two, I need the Bucks broadcast crew, Lisa Byington, who I think does a great job during the NCAA tournament, but I didn't like her cackle the other night. And what is his name? Marcus Johnson.
Marcus Johnson.
We need them on the Jumbotron.
You have a problem with him.
Constantly throughout the game.
Play
the clip. Play the wannabe all-star clip. Intros, instead of the normal, from Iowa State, he is an all-star, Tyrese out. Play the wannabe all-star clip.
Halliburton is one of the best floppers that I've seen in a long, long time.
Embrace Petty.
Scotty's right on the board. Maybe have Chad Buchanan out there instead.
Ooh, Chad Buchanan maybe in a hazmat suit, Wheel him out.
Some sort of protective vest.
With taped up ribs like he's like Lex Luger.
Put him
or
on
something.
the Hugh Freeze hospital bed when Hugh Freeze coached that game from the press box.
Hugh Freeze coaching a game from the hospital bed, and he lost to Dino Babers in Syracuse, and Dino looking up and giving him a Donald Trump thumbs up.
It's one of the funniest moments in the history of college football.
Not even college football. One of the great moments in the history of all sports in American subculture. It absolutely is. So
could not agree more.
Good week of shows. Again, Colts coming up 12:30. Get the coverage right here on the Fan. Pacers tonight at 6:30.
And you know what? From a fandom standpoint, soak it in. I mean, these are awesome atmospheres. Whether you're in Assembly Hall tomorrow at 12:30, whether you're over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse for Purdue and Arizona, obviously Lucas Oil Stadium speaks for itself. Hell, Sycamore and Cardinal Nation support those two teams over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We don't get these weekends very often. I have an absolute blast with that, and you will certainly enjoy it. We'll recap all of it coming up on Monday. Thank you especially to Rick Carlisle, Matt Painter for joining us earlier this week. Mark Dykton, Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney. We are signing off. It is the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy right here on 93.5 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Spiro Dinas, who joins us. What do you